College Game Day is here, kicking off now on ESPN.
Down below on this green patch of earth, welcome to the joyful birth of a brand new college football season. Almost 9 months in the making, arriving, screaming and kicking on the campus of Clemson. Is this the Tigers' time? High hopes here, the greatest of expectations. And tonight in Death Valley, down below Howard's Rock, the Georgia Bulldogs come calling. An old rivalry renewed, stirring memories of past classics. Clemson's coach calling this, quote, a game for the ages. Felines and canines and College Game Day. Bigger, longer, and unscripted.
ESPN College Game Day. To your city. Well, we're coming to your city. Will we stay down soon? A roll tide approach and go big blue. Had a ball down on the back, even on the flank. We saw blue turf and the tomahawk chop, and the gators in the swamp. Yeah, the big Sioux and go Gamecocks, they all got game. And the guys that shoot, USC and Bevo too. Aggies, Huskers, Fresco, TCU. Come down to your city. And if you want a little zing in your zang zang, if you want a little tang in your tang tang, come along, come along, come along, come along. Yeah, we're coming to your city.
College Game Day, live from Clemson, South Carolina, is built by the Home Depot. Proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
Once upon a time here on historic Bowman Field, the Clemson Tigers football team, coached by John Heisman, used to do battle. Now Death Valley will be the scene tonight. Kickoff in prime time on ABC, ACC, SEC. But a rivalry that goes back a long way. They've been waiting a long time, and they are ready here at Clemson for this opening night. We hope you're ready for the longest edition of College Game Day ever. Chris Fowler, Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit, Desmond Howard. You guys gotten some rest?
Yeah.
I don't want you gassed halfway through like David Clowney the other night.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was gassed, wasn't he?
You guys better be ready to go 4 hours. Here's the drill, 9 a.m. here on ESPN. That'll be the start time all season long. Today is a special deal, though. We go all the way to almost 1 p.m. That's when the Aggies and the Owls will kick it off, and we'll talk a lot more about that game. But it's a final season, guys, of the BCS system after 16 years. Can I get an amen for that?
Amen, brother. Amen.
Playoff coming in next year. It's also the first season of college football since the Hoover administration without our good friend Bino Cook, whose birthday would have been tomorrow. But Bino would have absolutely loved this scene.
Yeah.
He would have loved the fact that we're opening the show on a college campus, Kirk, and he would have loved the fact that Georgia and Clemson are together on the field.
No doubt about that. And how great is it, as you say, to be back on a college campus to start this year? 4-hour show. We've already seen upsets over the weekend.
Sure.
They may continue today with these first week of wildness.
And it's beautiful being back here in beautiful downtown Clemson, South Carolina. Home of the Tigers. Tigers.
That's good.
And there's a precursor, boys, right there.
Is that an early lane, coach?
Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. You know, what's so beautiful about this time of year is that there are kids on college campuses all over the country just boiling with optimism about their football program. A lot of that's going to end tonight, though.
We saw that man.
That's what can happen in this sport right before Labor Day.
Yeah.
Somebody can face a massive setback, including the loser of this game here tonight.
Well, there's so much at stake between Clemson and Georgia, and that's what makes it so exciting. The Big Ten is the scene in Clemson. It will have this crowd and this football team playing with a lot of emotion. Aaron Murray, a 4-year starter. He's got a lot of playmakers. Number 3, Todd Gurley, has got to take pressure off of Murray. And then Taj Boyd, plenty of weapons. Sammy Watkins is healthy. His weight is down. He's ready to have a big year. We'll see if he can get it started tonight.
Hey, Kurt, another big one tonight. TCU versus LSU. Casey Paul Hall, their quarterback, took some time off to get his mind right last season. He's going to really come out here and attack that Tigers defense. I can't wait to see what this kid brings to the offense. And how about Zach Mettenberger? Struggled at times last season. He has a big arm, tall quarterback. We know he has the talent. Can he put it together tonight, Coach?
Yes, sir. And if Tech is scoring the upset Alabama, they're going to match the Tide's defensive intensity. They have an experienced defense with 9 returning starters. They can do that. Bud Foster is one of the best defensive coordinators in the nation, and it has on all summer to plan for this game. Could be a close one.
Ooh, could be close.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk to Nick Saban coming up. Venerable Husky Stadium with a $250 million face-off to Rocket tonight. The crucial opener for Washington, a bowl rematch. Protecting Keith Price is a priority. 38 sacks last year. With time, he'll find Cason Williams. But DeMarcus Lawrence, hungry tonight. The Broncos pass rusher sat out the bowl game. Louisiana again carried by its defense. That's the personality of this team.
Well, I can't wait to see Clint Shelf in Oklahoma State. I think they have a chance to have a big year, but it's going to start today in Houston against Mississippi State. Tyler Russell can fling it around. They've got to break in some new wide receivers. But if they can get in sync with Russell, I think the Bulldogs and the Cowboys could be a shootout today in Houston.
In the Giants and Jets home, true freshman Christian Hackenberg takes the reins of Bill O'Brien's simplified offense today. Lions try to pound the cuse and feature great tight ends like Kyle Carter. The Orange coach, Scott Schaefer, will like to force the issue on defense. He needs guys like Dyshawn Davis to be a playmaker at linebacker. The game is an ABC game. Potential thunderstorms there. Meanwhile, countdown to kickoff, 1:01 Eastern time following game day at Kyle Field. This place is going to seat 102,000 in 2 years, and it's sold out for 2015. Today, Rice visits 19 starters back off a team that closed with 5 straight wins. You know by now, Johnny Manziel suspended for the first half, part of a negotiated settlement between the NCAA and A&M. A lot more on all angles of that coming up. So the first half today, true freshman Kenny Hill, a talented, hyped recruit from Houston. We think he's going to get his chance. We believe he'll get most of that first half to show what he can do. Kevin Sumlin, I'm not going to name his starter, but we also think that Matt Jokel will get some time. He had 11 pass attempts mopping up for Manziel last year. Mark Schwartz has been in College Station the last couple of days. We know about the first half now, Mark. What to expect from Johnny Football when he trots out there for the second half today?
Well, you know, Chris, how do you top a Heisman Trophy campaign for a freshman who had an SEC record, 47 total touchdowns, and led the conference in rushing and beat Alabama at Tuscaloosa? Well, according to his coaches and teammates, Johnny Manziel has worked hard at becoming a better pocket passer this year. His teammates say he's throwing the ball harder and better than ever before, that his confidence is sky high, that he's become more of a vocal leader, and because he's becoming so much of a better pocket passer, they expect him to pass a little bit more and run a little bit less. But don't forget, his scrambles accounted for 20% of the Aggies' top-rated offense last year in the SEC, so they're not going to pull the reins in too much. Look for him to play at least 3 series in the second half, especially if this one's not close, Chris.
All right, Mark, thanks. We'll talk to you later from College Station there. By the way, sportsbook.com had Manziel 12-1. Win another Heisman Trophy before that wrist slap. Yeah. Now he's down to 6-1. So Matt Jokel likely to start. That's your guy, right?
Yeah.
Matt Jokel likely to start. Then it'll be the Kenny Hill show because his skill set matches up more with what Manziel does. They got to get the backup ready there. What has you most excited today, Nash?
Well, besides everything about college football being back, I will say specifically this game. It's so much fun with the BCS, love it or hate it. When we play games in late August, they matter as much as games being played in November. Georgia thinks they're ready to get to a national championship. Clemson thinks they're ready to get to a national championship. You put both of those teams on the same field on opening night. We don't have preseason football in college football. It's ready, aim, fire. You better be ready to go.
Yeah, we both are fans of big matchups in week one. So I love this. I love TCU versus LSU. I want to see Zach Mettenberger, LSU's quarterback, struggled a lot last season, had a great game against Alabama in a losing effort. They brought in Cam Cameron from the NFL to work with Zach Mettenberger and become their offensive coordinator. I want to see what type of work Cam Cameron has done over the summer to get Zach Mettenberger to that next level, Coach.
I want to see that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Boise State versus Washington. Remember, Boise State upset Oregon, Virginia Tech, and Georgia in the last 4 home games. I mean, opening games. That could be an exciting game. Broncos versus Huskies.
I can't wait for the Saturday selections. You got a couple of prominent teams. Maybe an upset alert, some games on the edge of the radar, don't you?
Absolutely. I think Toledo has a real shot against Florida, and that was before what happened last night with the Gators. Toledo has a quarterback that's a veteran. I think UL Monroe, remember last year at this time, whoever thought they would pull off an upset against Arkansas, had Auburn on the ropes. They're in Norman. I think Oklahoma needs to take that one very serious as well. So I think Toledo's for real. I think they win. They go to the Swamp and upset the Gators.
Yeah, 6 players suspended for Florida against a good team.
See. Yeah.
You got 15 teams that are in new conferences. You got Syracuse and Pitt joining the ACC with Clemson. You got the Mountain West inheriting 2 teams who won 11 games last year, San Jose State and Utah State. You also got 4 new teams coming into Conference USA. So don't peek down here. It's not a Benjamin. It's only a Grant. It's only the 9 o'clock 50. If you could name 2 of the 4 new teams in Conference USA that are coming in.
I'm going to let you take that. I'm going to wait for that 10 o'clock 100. I want the Franklin.
We don't have a lot of time for this.
Yeah, UCF,
no,
Houston.
Southern Mississippi.
No, they're already there. Florida International, North Texas, Louisiana Tech, and the Roadrunners of UT San Antonio with Larry.
That's the one.
Yeah. That's the one that had me.
I knew that was set.
That money is safe.
We'll have higher price questions coming up. We got 4 hours here. We got 4 hours, but I'm not losing any money today.
Right?
Exactly.
Coming up on the longest edition of College Game Day ever, lots. Nick Saban will visit with him. I'll ask about that A.J. McCarron ingrown toe navel. He'll tell us not to worry, but more on that coming up. And as a one-on-one conversation with Urban Meyer plays out, we'll ask him why angry is the way that Urban wants his Buckeyes to play in the opener and throughout this season with so much hype. And how tennis rackets, brooms, and rakes help quarterbacks reach the next level. George Whitfield has the answer for us.
College Game Day is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And in part by Coke Zero. With real Coke taste and zero compromise, Coke Zero lets you enjoy everything. And AT&T tackled Coach's weekly challenge, and you could be the fan that wins a VIP trip to Game Day.
It's nice to see the sheet music of the Tiger Rag. Mr. Corso's gone to the bus to learn the words to that. Here we are at the foot of Tillman Hall's beautiful clock tower. A sticky, steamy day in Clemson. It'll be a test of early season conditioning tonight. Remember to log on to ESPN.com, search Chevrolet to play Chevrolet virtual Saturday selections, and then stay tuned for our picks later on in the show. The headgear, our special guest should be a whole lot of fun. These folks may be hoping Mr. Corso goes George's way, if you believe their tweets. Reverse psychology. Oh, why do we got to see that? Whose feet are up on the desk in the bus? That's a 1-game suspension, Pollock, for going barefoot.
Yeah. It's not acceptable.
Ask Game Day. Hashtag you can get your tweets answered by Mr. Pollock, who thankfully has put on the shoes.
Look at he's moving his toe.
Honey Boo Boo style. You were hopeless.
That's where lunch will be when we get off done with the show. Right there on that table.
How about a nice Clemson welcome for old number 47 in the red and black here, Mr. Pollock.
Oh, that's not bad.
It sounds like cheers.
That's not bad.
That's
You weren't expecting that, were
I
you?
was expecting a chorus of boos.
Old 47.
Wow.
It's not bad. I appreciate
That's
that.
nice.
not bad at all.
The ball you picked off against them, and that they've forgotten about how you broke their hearts. Stepped on their nose with a hobtail boot.
They've forgotten. Let's leave it alone.
Yeah, they're cheering.
We're going to talk about the SEC, and you got 4 coaches stepping into the nastiest conference in the country. Arthur Gustav Malzahn III. You can call him plain old Gus. He wrote the book literally on the up-tempo 10 years ago, back calling the plays, hoping that Nick Marshall is going to awaken the dismal offense against Wazoo. Good momentum off a good recruiting class, but now they got the ball games. Well, in Nashville, it's a debut for Kentucky coach Mark Stoops. He's been watching, learning from his brothers. Now, finally, his first chance as a head coach in the SEC, no less.
Over 50,000 at their spring game. People are excited in Lexington.
He's been recruiting well, but is it well enough? Butch Jones has 50 wins already as a head coach. Very unlikely to extend a personal streak of 4 straight conference titles. But he's been hitting the recruiting trail hard. Again, they're falling far short of a sellout for an opener on Rocky Top. So some work to do there to get the fans back. And how about old Brett Bielema? Reshaping Arkansas style. He wants the Hogs to punish people, so they're still going to feel the effects. They're going to still be sore on Tuesday, he hopes. SEC media, not much belief in his quick turnaround ability. They got the Hogs picked last in the SEC West. They were ranked number 10 in the preseason a year ago. So Arkansas playing with their chip on their shoulder. Can Auburn rebuild quickly? They'd better beat Wazoo or they're going to be howling. So, look, this is not the conference for quick fixes, quick success, unless you inherit a monster roster. David, who's going to have the most early success, though, out of those 4 new head coaches?
I think it's Gus Malzahn. We got to remember Auburn's 3 years removed, or 2 years plus removed from a national championship. And when that happens, recruiting comes up. And as far as talent purposes, recruiting, it's been Auburn. Gus Malzahn comes into a situation, too, where he also knows a lot of these players because he was only gone for 1 season. So familiarity with the players, more talent. I think Auburn, with their schedule, too, out of conference, not as bad as the other teams, I think they'll have the most success early.
And he inherits a quarterback in Nick Marshall that allows him to run his scheme and pretty effectively. I look at Brett Bielema as a fit in Arkansas. I know he doesn't have the team that he's going to have down the road, but just his coaching style fits in well into the SEC. Kind of roll up your sleeves, tough guy football. Don't be surprised to see them over the long haul this year surprise a few teams, and I think has the best chance of these coaches to be most successful this year.
You know, have you guys ever been part of a coaching change ever in your career?
Yeah.
I have too. I think the number 1 rule for a coach coming into a new program is to try to get the kids to buy into your system. And I think that Brett Bielema, I agree with you, Kirk, I think that he has the chance, the opportunity to have success earlier because they're going to buy into the system because they're result-oriented, meaning their first 4 games are all winnable. If they win those games, they're going to build a lot of confidence. That's why I like Brett Bielema at Arkansas. I think they play Louisiana, Samford, Southern Miss, and Rutgers. They can win all 4 of those games, and that team will start to really believe in what Brett Bielema is
Imagine
selling.
those seniors, though. You talk about Bill buying in. They've had 3 coaches in a year.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of them are going, hey, I'm fighting for Brett Bielema. You're my guy. I mean,
Winning,
it's tough.
is what
That's
does
what matters.
that. Yeah, that's what matters.
Oh, I agree. I think he feels like they've bought in at Arkansas, that it's been a fresh start. They've been through so much down there.
Yeah.
And Bielema is an easy guy to get behind because he brings that swagger to the SEC.
He brings an attitude. He brings an attitude, kind of a chip on his shoulder. He brought assistants with him from Madison to have that same kind of chip on their shoulder. All these great things about Arkansas. They'll lose today to Louisiana. I think this is one of the
Hey, Bielema, good job.
You're that Kool-Aid anymore.
I mean,
if they lose that game,
all that confidence about
he might lose his team.
I think they're going to lose to Louisiana. Louisiana is going to win the Sun Belt this year.
Okay.
So I like Louisiana to beat them.
Whoa, Pig Suey, big things that they lose today. They lose today to the Sun Belt team.
I'm just saying they do.
But you know
They're
what?
gonna lose
Another
today.
thing, you talk about him bringing in a system that they roll up their sleeves. So you're going to come in and try to be Alabama and LSU. But you don't have the players even close.
Not yet.
I think that's
only 2 games.
And you
gotta
have
win
to,
all the other
and
ones.
you have to play defense. And that hasn't even been a point of emphasis at all with Bobby Petrino. So they got to learn how to do that a little bit too.
They have some. They have
But
some
they're gonna
talent on
lose
that side
today.
of the ball. They're going to lose today.
John L. lost Louisiana Monroe. Now Bielema's going to lose to the Sun Belt team.
Yeah.
You got Florida and
That's gonna get
Arkansas.
I have Florida losing to Toledo.
Wow.
Louisiana beating Arkansas. And LM Monroe hanging around in Norman.
Oklahoma,
hanging around in Norman.
Circling the wagons in Norman.
Not necessarily beating them, but just hanging around.
It's one of those games you get in the fourth quarter, you're like,
wow,
what's
this
that
the score? Yeah,
they're going to win. They're just going to. It's going to look nasty.
Gotcha.
Is that the influence on you of our ace researcher, Chris Felicki? You got the Mighty Dogs howling today.
The bear has nothing to do. We got the camera for the bear.
Yes,
the bear's got his own camera.
I was impressed you knew Mark Hudspeth's I was impressed you knew Mark Hudspeth's boys at ULL.
You're getting coached up on the edge of the radar screen. That's good stuff.
We go 4 hours, and the bear gets his own camera and his own mic. Welcome aboard, Bear.
I have a table, too. Probably took about 10 years.
He might have his own picks, too, so be careful. All right. Also, a big part of the show still is Samantha Ponder. Let's go over to her, and she'll be with us throughout the 4 hours here. Good morning, Samantha.
I was doing great this morning until that close-up of David Pollock's feet. Don't you guys know people are eating breakfast right now? Chris, I took an informal Twitter poll yesterday and asked Clemson fans to describe their head coach in one word. Got a whole lot of passion and energy. And the man, the myth, the legend, yeah, he's here, Dabo Swinney, walking in for a little interview on game day this morning. We'll talk to him and get an all-access look inside his program. College Game Day rolls on.
College Game Day is brought to you by AT&T. Tackle Coach's Weekly Challenge, and you could be the fan that wins a VIP trip to Game Day.
What great scene at Clemson. Population about 14,000, 15,000. They say a couple 100,000 are going to be here. There aren't that many tickets, and they're going for about $2 grand a piece. Reminder to tweet your sign, the hashtag Game Day Signs, and stay tuned. And later, we will reveal our winner. And yes, Johnny Football is featured on lots of signs. Georgia here tonight. It's the Canines visiting the Felines at an opener next year. But Samantha, what a great scene. A sea of orange, and you're over there on the demo field surrounded by it.
Sweating it out, Chris. Successful college football coaches all share a fire, a passion for the game, but they have different ways of communicating that passion to their players whose performances determine their paychecks. Dabo Swinney, well, his methods are just as unique as his name, and he does it all with a Southern drawl.
All right, let's go all in on 3. 1, 2, 3, all in. Ain't you glad you came to Clemson? I know you are. I picked this out just for y'all. You know who's singing this song? No. Who? Journey. Hey, Vic, don't let me down. Do you know who's singing this song? Kiss. That's a sad state of affairs. All right, let's go to work, baby. Let's go to work. Let's go. Here we go. Keep the ball. Keep the ball. Don't just communicate. Get confirmation. You got to drive that ball. Back shoulder. All right, right there. You got it. There it is. There it is, right there. Good ball. Beat the Bulldog?
Yes.
Yo, okay. That's the plan.
We are joined now by the head coach of the Clemson Tigers, Dabo Swinney, going into his 6th year. Coach, first, I want to know who sings the song. I think everyone at home wants to know, too. Who was it?
I believe that was Tina Turner.
And they thought it was Kiss?
Yeah, it was really, really sad.
That's
really sad.
upsetting. So, Coach, did you get any sleep last night?
I got a little bit of sleep, but I was up early. Man, it's game day, and just couldn't wake up early enough, ready to go.
Coach, when you know a stat like no team has ever lost in week 1 and made it to a BCS national championship, you got all this behind you, all the excitement here. How do you keep a game like this from getting too big?
Well, first of all, how many of those teams that lost played a top 5 team like Georgia right out of the gate? You know, Clemson's not afraid. We're excited about having the opportunity. We don't worry about all that stuff. You know, the thing that our team has bought into is it's about how you think. It's about what you believe, an attitude of belief. We don't get caught up in what hasn't been done or what hadn't been done in however long, whatever. Hey, somebody's got to be the first, so let's play.
Obviously, a lot of confidence coming off of that win against LSU. What would a win against Georgia tonight do for this program?
Well, it just gives us early momentum. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's just the opener. It's a huge game, but it's a long season, and we can't accomplish all of our goals tonight.
And if it doesn't go away, our goals aren't going away. You know, it's a long year. You just have to, you know, do the best you can. Everybody be committed to playing to a standard. Don't worry about anything else. And when the game's over, be proud of how you perform. But a win would simply just give us a little momentum. But you still got to go perform next week and the next week and the next week.
Obviously in the process of changing the culture here, doing things that have never been done before, what do you think are still some of the misconceptions about Clemson football or things that you would like to see change this year?
Well, you know, at some point, people got to start talking about what we have done here, not what we haven't done. And, you know, this is a school, this is a program that there's only 5 other schools in all of college football that have been as consistent as Clemson over the last 30-plus weeks of college football. Alabama, LSU, Oregon, Stanford, South Carolina, and Clemson are the only schools that have been ranked for 30-plus weeks. So I could name a bunch of other schools that aren't in that list. So at some point, you know, I think people need to recognize the consistency that our players compete with. No, we haven't been perfect. We hadn't won every game, but those other teams haven't either. But our guys have learned to compete to a certain standard at a very consistent level, and I think that's the biggest misconception with this program.
Coach, you're fired up and enthusiastic as always. We appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping by this morning.
Go Tigers.
Best thing about Coach this morning, would not accept makeup. Just wanted to be all natural. He's an authentic man. Other Tigers down south, the Auburn kind, had a season to forget in 2012. We'll hear from Gus Malzahn and Paul Feinbaum on what to expect this season. And forget Michigan. Stick around to hear why Urban Meyer says there's an Alabama obsession in Columbus. They're booing back here already. And of course the guy, are you tweeting, Des? What is going on? You still have 3.5 hours to go. You can do it, fellas. I believe in you.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's just great to be a Clemson Tiger. This is a national championship team.
We're ready to roll.
Touchdown!
I think they're terrible.
Isn't this embarrassing? Chiswick is a clown.
Losing season, you don't do well, you get fired. Our defense sucks. And if there's any reason to get rid of Gene Chiswick, I think you ought to fire him for how he's handling our defense.
Auburn is not recruiting players of good character. They're recruiting for Tom.
Kick is good! Auburn wins in overtime.
I'm proud of the guys in the locker room. They fought together, they hung together in there.
Did the man just say that escaping a loss to Louisiana Monroe is a celebrated win?
For Auburn continuing to reel. Now you know exactly what the conversations will be this week and in the weeks ahead.
Gene Chiswick fires after 4 short years.
The Auburn fans and Auburn family did not deserve this.
Well, one thing that'll galvanize Auburn people is what happened to the trees at Toomer's Corner. Those poison trees have been cut down. They're reshaping it, and that's what Toomer's Corner looks like today as the Tigers open against Washington State, hoping to get off on the good foot. They had the worst season for a team within 2 years of a national championship last year, winless in the SEC, 3-9, outscored 87-0 by Georgia and Alabama combined. You can see how bad the offense was in contrast to what Malzahn was able to do as offensive coordinator there. So tonight is first Auburn home opener against a BCS AQ team in 6 years, and it attracts a lot of intrigue for a matchup of 3-9 teams a year ago, because you got Malzahn and Mike Leach matching play calling IQs there. Now Leach's offensive line, the group that he called a zombie convention a year ago, the bad news, good news is they got 4 starters back against an Auburn pass rush that's going to be without its top sacker from a year ago, D. Ford. He's got a knee. And also without Demetrius McNeil, their leading tackler, coming back. He was dismissed from the team a couple weeks ago. Connor Halliday won the quarterback competition at Washington State. And at Auburn, Nick Marshall becomes the 7th different opening day quarterback in the last 7 years at Auburn. Now, a couple of those guys were pretty good. Marshall was a DB at Georgia a couple years ago, had legal issues, was dismissed, went to a junior college in Kansas, switched to quarterback, says he grew up, now he gets a second chance in the SEC, much like Zach Mettenberger. Here's Malzahn with Don Davenport.
Coach, always a lot of unknowns coming into the first week of the season, especially for you and your program. What are your goals when you look at this year?
Well, I'm real curious to see how our guys are going to respond. They've worked extremely hard, you know, to get to this point, and now I'm just excited to watch them play.
You look at your starting quarterback and Nick Marshall getting his first D1 start at quarterback. Hasn't been in your offense a whole lot. What concerns you for him heading into the first week?
Well, I'm excited for Nick. You know, he's earned the job. He's got a lot of playmaking ability. We're just going to try to put him in the right situations to try to help him be successful. But really looking forward to watching him play, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Coach, appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Gus looks so different in his suit and tie than he does when he's calling plays on the sideline frantically. Paul Feinbaum joins us now. He'll be a contributor to ESPN across platforms. Of course, his radio shows on the SEC Network. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
You know very well the climate down there. What's the reaction to the hiring of Malzahn? How patient is that Auburn fan base going to be?
Well, it's interesting. Auburn's problem started a year ago tonight when they lost to Clemson. It fell apart after that, and it's interesting looking at the stats, Chris. Gus Malzahn was the offensive coordinator. Auburn would not have won the national championship without Gus Malzahn and, of course, Cam Newton. And just thinking back on Gene Chizik, has there ever been a coach who's done a worse job into a national championship? I think Gene Chizik's the worst coach to ever win a national championship. And I think Gus Malzahn has already turned this program around. He got a great staff. He's recruiting well. And I think he'll win 7 or 8 games this year.
It's interesting to look at Gus Malzahn as a savior. When he left, all I heard from Auburn fans is good. Now we're going back to Auburn football. Dot the I, pound the rock.
Exactly.
This is who we are. And a year later, he's here. And oh, my gosh. I don't know if there's been this kind of excitement at Auburn, as you know, in a long, long time. My concern today in this football game is their defense. We talk always about Gus Malzahn and his offense. They have not had an Auburn defense in a long time. And to me, for Gus Malzahn to come in, his hire of Ellis Johnson was outstanding. A guy who's familiar with the SEC. They will have their hands full today against Washington State, second year in this system, because they can throw the football. I'm telling you. No D4, no pass rush. Washington State's going to score.
And you know what? The interesting thing about watching Auburn on tape on defense last year, I don't think they had one guy that could go start defensively for another powerhouse defense. I mean, that's how
Demetrius McNeil's gone, their leading tackler. He's kicked off the team.
As far as a talent standpoint, you watch it leave and you're just like, what happened? And even when they won a championship, you're right. When was the last time they played great defense? They were still a bad D, but Nick Fairley covered it up. Cam,
exactly.
They got to do a better job of developing talent. They're getting talent to Auburn. They're getting all these 5-star guys and 4-star guys. They got to develop them into great players.
Now, you got Bielema that doesn't have many believers among the SEC media at Arkansas. Where do you see Auburn fitting in the tough SEC West this season?
Chris, I think the key is beating Mississippi State in a couple of days, because if you don't beat Mississippi State, you go backwards. I think that's a must game for Dan Mullen as well, who hasn't really done a very good job. But to disagree with my best friends over there, Auburn's defense has not been good, but the problem last year was the offense. They lost 49-0 to Alabama. The offense will be much better this year, and I think they'll get past Washington State without much difficulty.
But they lost 49-0. That means they gave up 49
They're bad on both sides.
They're bad on both sides.
But they didn't have an offense, David.
But they were terrible on both sides.
I know we're going back to Auburn because it seems to be more of a lightning rod this week because it's an unknown with Gus Malzahn. I think that Nick Marshall's a great fit for what they want to do. Trey Mason's an experienced guy. The heat and humidity will be a factor today. Eventually, they're going to wear Washington State out and beat them. But their defense will not have a great chance early in this game to stop. I'm telling you, Mike Leach in his second year with this system. Last year, people had such high expectations. Yeah. This year, Washington State can throw it around, and Auburn doesn't have a defense to stop them.
Interesting. You know, Marshall and Mettenberger went to Georgia, got in trouble, left to get the second chance to quarterback. It's becoming a trend in the SEC
And they get to play against Georgia this year, both of them.
Cam Newton, who transferred around and got a second chance at Auburn. You're going for the Cougars. We got, again, the Washington State flag. You got Auburn winning.
But they'll pull away in the second half.
Okay, so the flag waivers, you're going to come close, but not quite close enough on the road.
That's right.
Against Auburn. 133 consecutive game days, Paul. We've had a Washington State flag. They've been on the edge of the radar screen, to say the least, for a while. But we are proud to have them here. And then they're going to drive from here in Clemson. You got to circumnavigate Auburn there in the MapQuest. It's tricky to get down to Auburn, Paul, but there's some back roads. You can stop at a Cracker Barrel, fuel up along the way, and they'll get down there for the night game. You know of a good Cracker Barrel along the exit.
Oh, yeah. Always look for that.
So they'll make this big journey with the flag. Close, but not quite. That would be a deflator. A lot more to lose for Auburn.
No doubt.
In that game tonight. All right, we're going to come back. Paul will be back later on. We'll talk about the Crimson Tide, everybody's favorite topic down in that state. Speaking of state, Penn State, the opener against Cuse, year 2 for Bill O'Brien, a freshman quarterback takes the reins. We'll kick that around coming up.
For so long, we've gathered in our tight inward circle, and we've waited. And now, we raise our arms, lift our voices, clap our hands. Now. Ready? Break.
The shortest but most meaningful regular season in all of major sports beginning around the country. Ohio State kicking off noon Eastern time. We're counting down to kick off Texas A&M and Rice. Well, the votes are in. This, of course, is a blimp-worthy game of the week. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, where there is superior performance. Goodyear is there. Goodyear more driven. Meanwhile, the home of the Jets and the Giants in Jersey. MetLife Stadium hosting an anticipated game in the Northeast. Syracuse and Penn State, of course, are old rivals. It's a crucial game for both. Scott Schaefer takes over at head coach for Syracuse, and Bill O'Brien in year 2 will go with Christian Hackenberg. He was the recruit. O'Brien desperately needed to keep his commitment to Penn State despite the heavy sanctions. Today he becomes a true freshman opening day starter, we believe, in an NFL stadium against Syracuse. Kind of a classic drop back guy. They're going to use the game planning wisdom of Bill O'Brien, make things more comfortable for Hackenberg. They're going to make his reads simple. They hope to rely on a running game. Zach Zwinak, the top running back who had a broken wrist in the spring, he's back. He's good to go. Allen Robinson, the receivers, had a great camp. He should have a big season. And Penn State may have the best group of tight ends in America, so they hope to keep things simple. Tyler Ferguson also should get some time for Penn State there. Syracuse is going to come after him with a very aggressive defense, but this looks like a rebuilding year for the Cuse as they change head coaches, quarterbacks, and lose a core of leaders. Penn State, by the way, still has 2 more years after this one of a postseason ban, and the scholarship hits, the heavy sanctions from the NCAA really have yet to kick in. Can they duplicate last year's total of 8 wins? Gene Wojciechowski joins us now. He's been spending lots of time in Happy Valley in recent weeks. Woj, welcome.
I think they're fooling a lot.
Chris, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. but the transition from the Joe Paterno era to the Bill O'Brien era has been made a little simpler by a 5'2" guy who never had a chance to play a down of football in his life. He's a legend at the Penn State football program because of his loyalty, his kindness, but most of all, his toughness.
I was a student manager here back in 1983. I remember my first day. I walked in, and it was chaos. Still never dreamed I'd still be here 30 years later. Magic eraser. My name is Brad Spider Caldwell, equipment manager at Penn State, entering my 31st season.
Nobody in the Penn State football program has more seniority than Spider Caldwell. He spent 29 seasons working for Joe Paterno.
Coach Paterno is all I've ever known since I've been 18 years old. I mean, he became more than a boss and a coach to me. He became a father figure and a grandfather figure. So I've never known change.
Ladies and gentlemen, Penn State's head football coach, Bill O'Brien.
Devastating NCAA sanctions arrived 7 months after Bill O'Brien's hiring. And yet Caldwell kept the faith, mostly because he's endured far worse.
I was born with a severe scoliosis, which I have like a 54-degree curvature of my spine. I have a half a shoulder blade in my left shoulder. I've got some ribs missing and some fused together. So I wore a back brace from 20 months old until I was 16 years old in high school. I did take the one of them, I melted it in a fire because just of all the years, but it wasn't anger, it was just like a relief kind of thing. All right, gentlemen, special teams meeting. Let's kick off coverage today. My wife and I don't have any kids, and we couldn't, and it was just one of those things where I get my satisfaction of being a father from being able to be around these guys. I've outfitted at least over 1,200 different Penn State football players. That's a pretty good family. Those are the shoes that Coach Paterno wore in the '86 National Championship game, and here's where he ripped it when he was demonstrating the back pedal to the defensive back, and he fell on his rear end and had to go get him a new pair, and he said, that's when he said, I'm old, buddies.
The 49-year-old Caldwell isn't just an equipment manager. He's a connection between Paterno's past and O'Brien's present.
Coach O'Brien approached me and said, you know, hey, I think we're going to put the names on the back of the jerseys. We want to honor these kids that are deciding to stay. Even the Lettermen were just like, that's just a great idea. My wife does our sewing for us. She might be killing me to this day since I brought that upon her. And I'm glad I can be in a bridge to the next era. And I love Penn State football. And I think on my gravestone, I'd love it to say, we are.
Here's what a big deal Spider is at Penn State. When O'Brien got the job, he started getting dozens and dozens of calls from former Penn State Lettermen. And the first question they asked O'Brien was, you're going to keep Spider, right? O'Brien told me this week that it only took a few minutes talking to Spider that he realized why those Lettermen had such a soft spot for Spider. And needless to say, Chris, Spider kept his job.
That's a great story, Wojo, the hidden heroes of the program. Meanwhile, after Syracuse, here's the schedule for Penn State. First half of the season at Indiana, a soft opener in the conference, but then Michigan comes calling. Wojo, you were hanging around watching their team at practice. What do the Lions have in year 2 for O'Brien?
O'Brien really likes this team. His one worry is that depth chart is so thin. He can go too deep, and then after that, there's problems. So I think he likes the talent that he has, but he's worried about that margin of error.
All right, thanks, Wojo. Welcome back, Mr. Corso. Your take on the Lions this year? 8 wins last year?
Well, listen, I tell you, on offense, Penn State has talented, skilled people and 3 offensive line returning. They should be good offensively. And the quarterback position is bad. But Bill O'Brien is a great quarterback coach. He's a great man. And listen, if Penn State's defense holds up, I think they win 8 again. He's a true freshman. No, he's bad.
He hasn't taken a snap yet. He's bad.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Welcome aboard, kid. Haven't taken a snap.
Well, the thing about Bill O'Brien is that he's an excellent coach at extracting talent. And I think he's not going to put the quarterback in a position for him to fail. He's going to put him in a position to succeed. He has excellent tight ends, great skilled position players around him. So I think that they're going to be really successful. Now, I don't know if they'll duplicate 8 wins. But I think it'll be okay.
I'm anxious to see this defense. They lost such incredible leadership. The intangibles of that team, when you think back to last year, that Wisconsin win, Mike O'Malley on the sideline, basically an extension of like the coaching staff out there willing that team. Gerald Hodges, Jordan Hill, some great players that played a lot of football for Penn State. They're gone. Who's the new leadership? Who's going to keep this team together on that side of the football is the question I have.
There was the opening loss to Ohio, which got them off on the bad foot. They've recovered nicely. Since half of our company went to Syracuse, for the Bristol campus, patience there for the Orange?
Patience. I like the energy of Coach Schaefer. He's got a quarterback, Drew Allen, transferred from Oklahoma. So they're not a given today. This could be a very interesting game.
Tough game for them, boy.
Yeah.
All right, this will be of interest to the fans behind us here. The picks are coming up. Mr. Corso, do you know that when you picked the Georgia Bulldogs to win, you were 0-3? When you pick against Clemson, against the Tigers, 2-0. Something got to give.
Man, I got to go, man.
And welcome back to a great scene here in Clemson, South Carolina. A tough ticket for a very, very special non-conference collision. ACC versus SEC. This rivalry goes way back, 1980 and 81. The winner of this game to begin the season, it was a springboard to a national championship season for each of them. Is that in the cards tonight? Now, there are skeptics everywhere, but people around Clemson feel like this is finally their time. And tickets tonight inside Death Valley going for a couple of grand. We have been here already an hour or so. If you're just joining us, welcome. Still plenty to come. We'll have a visit with Nick Saban, who's tied to begin their title defense against Virginia Tech. There's a question about A.J. McCarron's toe. We'll ask Urban Meyer some questions about getting that edge, that chip on his shoulder. Buckeyes favored big in most of their games. And we're counting down to kickoff. Johnny Football won't be there until the second half. We'll talk about A&M's quarterback situation today and plenty of opinions on the entire Manziel situation. Midnight yell practice. Aggie faithful last night. Pack and Kyle Field so eager for the season to arrive when the questions are going to be who we're going to beat and by how much, and not what did he sign and for how much. So welcome back to College Game Day. The new start time on ESPN all season long is 9 a.m., which means we've been chugging along for a little more than an hour.
And we get bonus time till 1 o'clock Eastern today.
Bonus.
That's true. Looking forward to that.
Exactly.
We're going to kill them. It's going to be fun.
4 hours. You guys holding up so far? We only got 3 to go.
Yep. We got Corso stretched out. He's ready to go at the break.
If you missed the first half, Mr. Herbstreit over there called for SEC heavyweights like Florida to lose. Arkansas to lose their opener. Oklahoma upset alert.
Upset alert.
We'll see.
Desmond Howard said that TCU LSU is going to be the most compelling game of the day.
I think so. I like that matchup.
And Mr. Corso said that Penn State's quarterback position is bad.
That's right.
Hadn't taken a snap, but it's
True freshman.
That's right. We'll see what happens.
Well, there's lots more to talk about. We're going to have plenty more games and have reports on the big ones as well. What do you need to know today? What are you focused on? Some question you got to have answers.
The game we're at right now, Georgia, Clemson. I need to know if Clemson's defense can stop that guy, Todd Gurley, and Georgia's running attack. If they can stifle the running attack, it affects Georgia's play-action pass package. And if they can do that, Kirk, hey, maybe Aaron Murray may throw a couple of balls to a couple of Tigers tonight.
Never know, especially on the road. His experience will be big tonight. I need to know if Logan Thomas can find some help. He's going to need it tonight against Alabama's defense. He has a redshirt freshman in the backfield starting in Trey Edmonds. He's got a bunch of new wide receivers. I need to know who's going to help him out and allow him to try to move the football against this Crimson Tide defense.
I need to know if my preseason pick for the Heisman, Johnny Football, will pick it up the same place he left off last season. Remember, he only accounted for 49 touchdowns last year. Whoa. Oh, my God.
Well, what's it going to be at halftime when he comes in there? That's what we fight. It's going to be close. It's going to be a blowout. 6 quarters to get ready for the Crimson Tide. Speaking of quarterbacks who took on the Crimson Tide last year, I need to know if LSU quarterback Zach Mettenberger has improved as much in the offseason under Cam Cameron's tutelage as the folks at LSU believe. Can he be consistent? Can he throw all routes well? Takes on a TCU defense that can be nasty, even though Devontae Fields, their best pass rusher, is not going to be there. If Mettenberger is great, LSU's being overlooked and underrated.
Totally
That's
agree.
just a fact because they've got plenty of talent. Meanwhile, at Kyle Field, Tide come calling in a couple of weeks. 6 quarters from Manziel to get ready for the Crimson Tide. A couple today against Rice and then 4 against Sam Houston State in a virtual scrimmage. So Mark Schwartz has been hanging out there in Kyle Field. Heard from him earlier. Mark, we talked about what to expect from Manziel in the second half. What do we expect in the first half with Jokel perhaps getting the start and then Kenny Hill showing his skills later on in the first half?
Well, a tweet came from former Aggie defensive lineman Spencer Neely, Chris, who played here a couple years ago, congratulating Matt Jokel for the start. I think we can call that reliable. You can look for Jokel, the junior, and the twin brother of Luke Jokel, the big Jaguars first-round pick. Jokel more of a traditional passer, but you are right. Kenny Hill will play early and play a lot in this first half. This is a dynamic, true freshman from South Lake Carroll. Played in a very similar offense down there to the one that the Aggies run. Ran for 22 touchdowns, threw for 20 more, and he has that skill set that will remind you a little bit of Johnny Manziel. He is the quarterback of the future. We may even see some of him in the second half when Johnny Manziel runs through that tunnel with a Heisman Trophy-sized chip on his shoulders, Chris.
I can't wait. Mark, excellent stuff. Good point about Kenny Hill's skill set. He's a true freshman. Manziel a year ago was a redshirt freshman, but we didn't know who he was either. And Hill's got talent. You got to get it back up ready.
Yeah,
for the SEC.
No doubt. And his father, Ken Hill, who pitched with the Texas Rangers, obviously has great bloodlines. I'm excited to watch Johnny in this second half. And all this hype and anticipation of what to expect, rest assured, all this hype, all the doubters, all the people talking about what he did in the offseason, hanging out with who he hung out with, going to basketball games, all that's doing is fueling his fire. I'll be shocked if Johnny Manziel doesn't play well and play with the chip that Mark just talked about. My question is, he lost 4 of his top 5 wide receivers. He's breaking in a lot of new people on the outside, a lot of true freshman wide receivers. So I don't think it's about Johnny and his development. I think it's about getting in sync with a new group of wide receivers.
They've got athletes, though.
No doubt.
And then, Johnny Manziel will play, as everybody said right now, with a tremendous chip on his shoulder.
No doubt.
He's got something to prove now. And if he can prove more than 49 touchdowns, hello, baby. He's on his way to the Heisman.
Can I be honest with you guys, really? I really don't care how Johnny Manziel plays in this game. I really don't.
It's Alabama,
I don't care. Listen, Johnny Manziel is supposed to play well against Rice. I don't judge his talents by what he does against Rice for a quarter or for a half. In my opinion, he was only going to play a half anyway. It would have been the first half, and he would set out the second half. And if he doesn't play well, then he has built-in excuses. So one way or another, I can care less how he plays today. I just hope this kid keeps his nose clean till September 13th, so he'll be on the field September 14th.
Right. So you want 2 weeks of good behavior?
That's all I'm asking for. Please.
Give me 2 more weeks.
Can I get 2 weeks of good behavior? That's all I ask.
Well, we'll talk about that controversial half-game suspension, the mindset of Manziel, what it means, why fans around the country are mad. Recall the shootout with Louisiana Tech a year ago. I mean, A&M's defense should be better. Rice is going to, I think, score some points. This is not going to be a deal where he's going to come in. I don't think they're going to be up 3-4 touchdowns at halftime.
And I think there's always that danger. This is still a program that's still growing, and they have almost unrealistic expectations because of what Johnny Manziel did and what they did as a team last year. You're right. It's easy to overlook a Rice because of all the noise that's surrounding Johnny Manziel and what they're going to do against Alabama in a few weeks.
Kirk, you had some very strong comments when the situation was still unfolding about Manziel's actions and taking money for the autographs. The NCAA wasn't able to prove that. Johnny Manziel's not going to answer any questions about that. We don't even know if he's going to be available to the media after this game. That really hasn't been announced yet. But half a game suspension, as far as we know, that's never happened. There was a negotiation there. A&M was willing to accept the half game, and they didn't fight it.
Yeah, with all the allegations that were out there, you'd thought that he was either going to be removed for the year or he was going to have a chance to, they couldn't prove it, and he'd be able to play. The half game, for me, was surprising. But imagine if the NCAA did say, you're suspended for the year, and they didn't have any evidence. I mean, to me, the NCAA, no matter what they ruled here, they were going to get a lot of negative feedback because how do you look at this situation? We can assume whatever we want. But unless we have document or some kind of documented or video that here's the cash.
Sure.
How can you suspend him for an entire year off an assumption? So I think they were in trouble no matter which way they ruled.
I don't think you suspend him off an assumption. I don't think you do that. But, I mean, for them to say we couldn't find any evidence that he took money as if the shot clock had run out on them, I didn't know that there was a shot clock as far as investigating allegations are concerned. So it seemed like it ended really quickly, and they felt as though they needed to appease someone. They needed to appease a certain crowd. So they said, okay, well, he violated the spirit of the rule, so we'll suspend him for the first half of a game. It's just laughable. I mean, they lose all credibility. And, you know, it's just ridiculous. You sit there and you look at this, you're like, come on, man. You make it up as you go along.
But he also had to tell his team that he learned a lot of valuable lessons.
Oh, well, I'm pretty
sure. Can you
that,
imagine? I wish I could see that.
I'm pretty sure that really humbled him.
Guys, let me tell you something. I learned a lot of stuff throughout this whole ordeal. I mean, you imagine him standing. Dudes would be like, will you just sit down?
Exactly.
Sit down.
We know what you did.
Sorry, go ahead.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you very much. War and peace. That was war and peace. The NCAA light penalty against Manziel for half a game against Rice was ridiculous. That was a negotiated settlement by two lawyers who said, let's move on forward.
Yeah.
The NCAA got a black eye for this. A&M, a winner.
And you, with the Heisman pick, a winner.
Hey! Get the air conditioning hose. Get you cooled off. You're fine. And there are a lot of people fired up about this. And the suspicion out there is that there are many other big-name college football players who also signed stuff and also got paid. You don't have to have the fact. Go on eBay. See where all the signed stuff is out there and draw your own conclusions as to whether those guys did that without getting paid. You say that defies belief?
As a person who's signed autographs before in bulk,
yeah,
you don't do
fun,
it for free.
Yeah, it's fun.
You don't do it for free. I don't think any of these college kids are that charitable.
No.
Meanwhile, the A&M coaches are sort of in the dark, and that's the way they want it. Kevin Sumlin and his staff, like, don't ask any questions. Don't ask Johnny. Let the rest of the school just handle it.
You don't like to kill 2 hours? Just sign
up. Yeah, just so someone else can make a lot of money.
It's a great time.
Yeah.
Now, a family that's felt exploited, perhaps justifiably, by A&M is going to now give it away. Well, we'll talk more about this. Meanwhile, on the banks of the old Tenji, Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes rolling off a 12-game winning streak, perfect last season, ranked only behind the Crimson Tide. But the odds makers say, wait a minute. We'd favor a whole bunch of teams over Ohio State on a neutral field. Meyer didn't care about that at all. He ain't got no time for that. He's getting ready for Buffalo. ESPN 2 at noon.
And not the Bills.
Nick Saban will visit hangnail or whatever it is for A.J. McCarron. We'll get to the bottom of that. Kirk's got some good info as well. We'll talk about the opener and the quarterback whisperer, the guru. George Whitfield will join us, and he's a new member of our ESPN Game Day team. We'll visit with George coming up. And also, our bald man on campus, Scott Van Pelt, came to Death Valley to see if they should believe in Clemson this season. Find out if he was convinced. Nice view from our Cheez-It Real Fan Cam. These folks are sturdy and strong to be out here in this heat for 4 hours, and we definitely appreciate that. Now, it was back when these students' grandparents were hanging around, perhaps some of them at Clemson in 1946 when Georgia and Clemson collided. When you open the season against Clemson, that's usually been a pretty good thing for Georgia. In 46, Charlie Trippey was the star for Georgia, but they posted pictures of him all over the locker room. They shut him down, but old Johnny Roush scored 3 touchdowns, and Georgia won in 82. The night lights went on in Georgia. First night game in Athens in more than 3 decades. OU, Herschel Walker, hampered by a broken thumb, but Dale Carver blocked the punt. 13-7. Wow. The SEC championship. In 02, remember DJ Shockley taking on the Tigers. Found Terrence Edwards here. Aaron Hunt's game-tying field goal, boink, off the upright, a heartbreaker for Clemson, 31-28. And in 03, the last time they played, 8 Bulldogs suspended, 2 others injured, but David Pollock, Fred Gibson, and 47 off the edge. Look at that old thick neck. Boy, look at that big dog right there. There he is. A lot leaner and a little bit meaner than he was back then even. Thanks to stir up the locals. Samantha.
That can't be the same guy, Chris. That cannot be the same guy. You know what I don't understand? Finally, David, they're letting us work with Coach.
The man, the myth, the legend.
It's so long.
We gotta watch our slang. We gotta keep it a little old school.
Best behavior.
Between you two, I feel like Papa Lee, Grandpa Lee. I feel like a grandfather.
Well, we feel lucky. Coach, when you look at this Georgia-Clemson game, what concerns you most about Georgia?
Well, I think, first of all, Georgia's overrated. I don't think they deserve to be a top 5 team in the nation. The reason is on defense. Their defense gave up 63 points in the last 2 games. 63 points in the last 2 games. But now, even worse, David, they open away from home with all those young defensive players. That is a disadvantage.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you because not being overrated, but the defense is the biggest concern because think about this. So you're breaking in a bunch of new guys against one of the best quarterbacks in college football, one of the best playmakers in Sammy Watkins in college football, and we're going to pay at warp speed. Yeah. We're going to go so fast, your head's going to be spinning. So I think their defense has a lot to prove. But let's be honest, too, though. Clemson's defense and their secondary has a lot to prove against 2 Heisman Trophy candidates
and this is a night game away from home.
So is Clemson overrated?
Yes, sir.
They are too?
Yes, sir.
So they're both overrated.
Defensively.
Okay, so everybody's overrated.
That's it. Defensively.
David, speaking of their defense, when you look at that secondary, we know they're thin right now. Up against the wide receivers at Clemson that are huge.
Yeah.
You mentioned Sammy Watkins, but across the board, over 6 foot. Do they have anybody that can man up against those guys?
We're going to find out quickly. And if you don't pressure Taj Boyd, things will get ugly quickly. So you have to take some chances. But you have to stop the running game of Taj Boyd, too. But there's going to be some trials and tribulations. Georgia's defense needs to just get some tip passes, get some turnovers, because you can't. Their offense might be their best friend. Give it to Todd Gurley, let the clock tick, give him a rest. But there's just so many unproven guys on that defense that have to step up.
These are 2 proven offensive teams.
Yes, they are.
Against 2 proven unproven defenses.
Truth is, this time of year, pretty much everything's unproven. We're just guessing. We have no idea yet exactly what's going to happen, and that's what makes it fun. And we're having some fun here, guys. They don't think their team's overrated, Chris. They don't want to hear that.
They want to hear about a lot of points, so it could be high scoring. Corso calling both teams overrated within about 15 seconds. It's only beautiful. You got to pick one of them. You got to pick one of them coming up. Bama, of course, trying to make it 4 titles in 5 years. Nobody has ever done that. But if you don't like the Tide and their chances, stick around, because we'll give you some reasons why they are not going to win it all. At least some of our experts will. Nick Saban doesn't want to hear that. He's on our DirecTV mobile studio. We'll ask Nick what his biggest concern is for the opener. It is not A.J. McCarron's toe.
SEC football is a grown man's game. It's physical. There's athletes all over the field. It's the closest to the pros you can get.
The most hard-nosed, smash-mouth, tough football in the entire country.
You've probably heard the saying, everything's bigger and better in Texas. Well, I can pretty much say that for the SEC. Everything's bigger and better in the SEC.
You hold yourself on a level above anybody else that's not playing in the SEC.
If you're not ready to take some criticism along the way, you better go play in another league. But when you do win it, there's nothing like it.
Georgia fans nodding, Clemson fans booing. In the Georgia Dome, December the 7th, the SEC Championship will be decided. Of course, it's Alabama and Virginia Tech today, and the openers, their SEC teams are 4-2. The losses by the conference when Clemson beat Auburn and Boise beat Georgia. Alabama, of course, will open next season with West Virginia, but the challenge got to be the first team ever to win 4 national championships within 5 years. A cautionary tale. Going back to 1990, 5 teams get at least 50 first-place votes in the AP. None finished at the top of the poll. The DirecTV Drive to the National Championship studio has been popping around the landscape of college football, of course, in Atlanta today, where Tide coach Nick Saban joins us. Nick, we'll start with the story that had Twitter blowing up last night. Your quarterback, A.J. McCarron, arrived in Atlanta wearing a walking boot. I know there was a minor incident at practice, but what's his situation for the game today?
Well, this is the most famous ingrown toenail ever known to man. So, you know, it makes him more comfortable to be in a boot because his, you know, real hard sole shoes, you know, hurt his feet. But his cleats don't, and he hasn't missed any practice, and I think he's fine for the game.
Yeah, I know you guys have made a habit of putting players like Trent Richardson in boots as a precaution, so that's good news. Coaches, including yourself, are control freaks. So what are the variables about this opening game that have you most concerned going in today?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you know, they have an outstanding quarterback, and we really don't know how they're going to use him in the game because they have a new offensive coordinator. So you try to take all the things they did last year, all the things he did in the last couple of years, and put them together. But it's always a concern when your defensive players don't know for sure exactly what they're going to do. That's number one. Number two, they have a very good defensive team, which is going to be very challenging to our offense. And I don't think people are giving Virginia Tech enough respect relative to the kind of football team and football players they have.
That's a quarterback, Logan Thomas, working with the new coordinator, Scott Loeffler. You lost 3 All-Americans off the offensive line. You said you don't hold this year's group perhaps to the high standard of last year's group, but how will you try to work around the inexperience against that very good defense?
Well, I think we have a couple veteran players who have provided very good leadership. I think all of our players are capable. I don't think there's any question that the knowledge and experience that they gain in this game against this very good defensive team is going to help them improve throughout the season.
You're going to hate this next question, Nick, because it's about your second ball game. But now that there's some clarity with the Johnny Manziel situation, your team knows that they will face number 2 when you go to College Station. What is your reaction to his half-game suspension and knowing you're going to see him on the field when you go there?
Well, there was never any doubt in our mind that we would play against Johnny Manziel. He's a great college football player, and I think that's what makes the game great, to be able to compete against guys that are, you know, the best in the country. And I don't think anybody in our organization ever thought that we wouldn't be playing against them. And our focus right now is on the team that we play today, though.
Of course. I know your defensive players will look forward to the challenge of stopping Mr. Manziel. Nick, thanks for your time. Wish you the best of luck.
All right, Chris. Thank you.
And our new colleague, Paul Feinbaum, rejoins us now. Paul, you've covered the Tide. You've loved tweaking their fans over the years. Everybody's saying Alabama, double-digit favorite in every game but that game at A&M. So give us a reason why the Tide will not win the national title, in your opinion.
Well, I would like to say I can't think of one, but I think the only thing that can happen to Alabama is Alabama beating itself. And quite frankly, I don't see that happening. I'm asked all the time, well, who else out there could beat Alabama? I thought maybe Ohio State, and Urban Meyer, I think, is the second best coach in the country, Chris, and Urban and Nick have won 6 of the last 10 BCS titles, but I'm not sure Ohio State could finish in the upper division of the SEC. I frankly think they'd rank 5 or 6 at best, maybe Oregon, Stanford, who knows? But the bottom line is that Nick Saban is on something here that we have never seen before. I've never seen it in my lifetime, and I've lived a little longer than some of these people would like me to. The bottom line is if they can win in Pasadena, and I think they will, Nick Saban then gets into an argument. Is he the best coach in Alabama history? I would say he is. And when you become the best coach in Alabama history, you perhaps become the best coach of all time, because don't forget, Paul Bear Bryant was the coach at Alabama.
All right, Paul, thank you. Ohio State down to the bottom. Ohio State fans think he's on something. We'll talk more about the Buckeyes coming up. But, you know, they have a favorable schedule, very manageable by SEC standards. No Georgia and Florida in the regular season, which is frankly too bad. It's too bad. It's not fair to LSU. But what about the Tide's chances of running the table?
I think they should, but now bear with me. This may be a stretch. Yeah. But every now and then a young team comes along and shots college football. Obviously, last year, no one saw A&M beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa. When I look at this Ole Miss ball club, you look at their schedule, their core talent, very young guys, they don't even know they should care. They're not going to disrespect Alabama, but they're just going to go out there and ball. And their schedule, September 14th, they play Texas. If they can beat Texas in Austin, that's going to be a tremendous boost for their confidence. Then they have a bye week, and then they play Alabama. I think something in that game may alter Alabama's season. So watch out for Ole Miss.
And a lot of Alabama said last year that was one of the toughest teams they played, and Ole Miss looked good the other night. I look at Alabama, and I just think they have to look in the mirror. I know that Nick Saban in the past has found a remedy to avoid complacency. He lost a lot of great senior leadership. Those guys are in the NFL. A.J. McCarron and C.J. Mosley and company. Now it's their turn to make sure this team is driven. So anytime you win a lot of championships, it's easy to let your foot just a little bit off the accelerator. Someone comes up and gets you. So I think it's complacency. It's themselves again this year.
Well, Kirk, I think it's Alabama's offensive line. They start 3 starters that have never played a single snap in college. But the key thing, they lost their place kicker, Jeremy Skelly. And if that's a tough game, comes up close, watch out, that place kicker, but it could be the difference.
You see, Paul said Ohio State not in the...
Oh, that's ridiculous. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
SEC guy, SEC guy,
We'll tell you later where Ohio State, #2 in the polls, where the odds makers would place them on a neutral field against some of the other teams. Ohio State fans won't want to hear that either. Bama fans are going to want to hear more about A.J. McCarron's toe, the most famous ingrown toenail, as Nick called it. What do you got?
Right. It did start out as an ingrown toenail, and then just a couple days ago, he actually had a little surgery to repair this ingrown toenail. So Thursday, he had a little bit of a procedure done. It was done just simply to try to take care of the infection that he gained while having this ingrown toenail. So as a protective measure, they put the boot on to make sure it didn't get any worse. They took the nail off. So that's the latest and where he is. It was an infection, a little bit of a surgery on Thursday, put the boot on yesterday to make sure he's okay. He's good to go. He's going to play. He's fine.
They took the nail off?
Took the nail off.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds painful.
Doesn't sound good to me.
But, you know, Frank Beamer wishes his injury problems were an ingrown toenail, but they arrived really banged up. You got J.C. Coleman. He sprained both ankles. Tony Gregory, another running back. He's lost for the year with the knee. Ryan Malik, the tight end. They are really injury riddled.
The only way Virginia Tech stays in this game is their defense. Their offense is going to struggle. It's Logan Thomas and a lot of inexperience around him. Their top 4 backs they left spring ball with, only one will be in uniform tonight. So they're young in the back end.
But Bud Foster's had a summer to get ready for this game.
He's one of the best
great
ones.
defensive coordinator.
And he returns 9 starters, too, from his defense.
Their defense, that's the key.
Defense and special teams.
Yep.
That's it.
They're going to have to try to keep it low scoring, win with defense, maybe score a couple of touchdowns on defense, because I don't know how the Hokies, with Logan Thomas, even though he's improved, how they're going to score points against Alabama. We'll find out. I know there's some young guys over there. Interesting game, but tied about a 3-touchdown favorite almost. More on A.J. McCarron, not on that toe issue, but on an important source of inspiration for the Alabama quarterback. This is a terrific story you're going to enjoy coming up on College Game Day. LSU, the hat in Arlington, the Frogs' backyard. Big bad SEC team favorite, but an upset alert. Some people here think so. And here at Clemson, this is one of the global headquarters for tailgating. They will do it right. We'll travel around showing how they'll prepare for tonight's 8 o'clock Eastern countdown. Careful, careful. We got a couple hours to go before you can get
Easy, boy. Easy. Stand down.
Welcome back to a great scene here. It's a long way from January as you see the Goodyear Blip. Again, providing our blimp coverage overhead. Beautiful day to fly. Down here on Earth, it's a little sticky and steamy. But that's what all those summer conditioning drills are for.
That's right.
Depth will be important at a night like this. Kickoff on ABC.
Now.
Just after 8.
Just ask us.
Yeah.
keep rotating the front seven.
Exactly.
Just keep moving them in and out.
The Coach's Trophy presented by Dr. Pepper. The crystal ball, that is the coveted prize. There's some feelings that Clemson is a contender for that, but they don't have any margin for error. They got to win this game and they got to roll through the ACC, and they have a lot of work to do. In prime time, you're going to see Alabama and LSU on ESPN. Alabama and Virginia Tech. LSU is going to be coming up later on here. You got Alabama and Virginia Tech reading top to bottom there. And then LSU and TCU. That's a 9 o'clock Eastern time kickoff, all presented by Hampton Hotels. LSU ended last season on a downer, but it was a big moment for the Clemson Tigers to beat an SEC team, rally from behind. How great was Taj Boyd bringing the Tigers down the field late?
That throw, fourth down, kept their hopes alive and eventually led to the game-winning field goal.
4th and 16 to Hopkins, and then Chandler Cannizzaro with the walk-off, 25-24. Now Clemson's trying to beat top 10 SEC teams in back-to-back games, and that is an historical rarity. Wow. Meanwhile, for Les Miles' team, which lost 11 underclassmen to the NFL. That has never happened before. So this, perhaps, the supreme test of the depth and the talent that LSU has recruited. So much focus on the quarterback at LSU, Zach Mettenberger. He's been heavily criticized, but Cam Cameron comes in to college football. He's been a decade in the NFL. He's known as a quarterback guru. Off-season reports say Mettenberger has improved a lot, and there's some talented playmakers that have Gary Patterson's defense concerned. The quarterback situation, of course, in the spotlight at TCU as well. Casey Paul Hall got a DUI, had to sit out the second half of the season, but he comes back now as the active leader in college football in passing efficiency. Now, he has not been named the starter by Patterson. I believe that it's going to be Paul Hall's game because as a senior, he gets the nod over the less experienced but multi-talented Trevon Boykin, who came in and quarterbacked effectively last year. Boykin is a talented guy. He can run, he can catch. So they're both captains for this game. They'll both see time, potential trickeration because of the skill set then. And then, of course, there is Mettenberger. To get off to a bang against Patterson's defense, which is young, but always tough to face. Holly Rowe now has a report from Arlington, Texas. Holly?
Here with Coach Les Miles. And Coach, Zach Mettenberger having a new offensive coordinator this year. What do you expect from him to be his greatest area of growth coming into this season?
Well, he understands the offense better. He's more aggressive in his mindset. Even when he, checks down and does the things that he's supposed to do, he gets to it quicker. He's a leader. He's in his senior year. We expect a lot from him.
Coming into this game, you weren't sure about Jeremy Hill's status. What do you expect to do with him as far as playing time tonight?
He's part of our team. Discipline is internal, and it'll unfold for you.
Does that mean he will or will not be on the field?
You'll enjoy the game.
You got to try, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And lastly, Coach, this is a TCU team. They're so known for their defense. Your offense has a lot of new guys on the offensive front. What do you need to see from your team to be successful?
We have a good plan. We're going to, mix the run and the pass, and we're going to see if we can execute and do the things that we come to do. If we do that, if we come off the football, we protect our passer, I think we'll like what our offense does.
All right. Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Look at that little grin. Here are the defensive losses for LSU. Yes, they've recruited well. They look great, look very beautiful in their uniforms and warm-up, but this is a lot of key guys, a lot of productivity. Those defensive ends that harass quarterbacks that made it easier to cover receivers. Yeah, those guys are tough to replace.
And the name at the top, Kevin Mentor was an extension of John Chavis, the defensive coordinator, knew the defense inside and out. You don't just lose a Kevin Mentor and replace him with a five-star recruit. Somebody needs to step up for Mentor.
Meanwhile, for TCU, they're not going to have Devontae Fields, their best pass rusher, to get after Mettenberger. He'll be in uniform there, wearing that new helmet and uniform. But Gary Patterson says he's going to stick to his principles. He will not play in this game. What about the quarterback situation? Both will play.
Yeah, the TCU quarterback situation really intrigues me because they do have two very good quarterbacks. Now, Paul Hall, he missed time last year to get his mind right, but all reports that I'm getting is that this kid is ready for primetime football. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I don't think people give him enough credit for just how good he is. And Boykin, when he got the nod to become the starting quarterback, previous to that week, he was practicing as a running back. So we know just how athletic he is. Both guys present huge problems for LSU's defense. And LSU, they don't know who to prepare for. But I tell you what, when Boykin comes into that game, their alert level goes up a couple of notches.
You would think Boykin, with his ability to escape, would, over the course of 4 quarters, be the guy to go to, even with Paul Hall and what he can do. I think the story's on really the other side of the ball. You have a TCU defense. Gary Patterson made a name for himself with his 4-2-5 defense, putting a ton of pressure, being physical, and outnumbering you at the line of scrimmage. Last 2 years, they have not been able to stop the run. They're confident that they're back to being Gary Patterson's defense this year. It starts tonight against LSU. I think they're going to be determined to stop that running game and then eventually put pressure on Zach Mettenberger. Now, Mettenberger's a different guy. Early member guys last year, he was still kind of feeling his way, trying to get comfortable, like a lot of young quarterbacks. The transfer from Georgia just wasn't in sync with his wide receivers. And out of nowhere, the game against Alabama, when everybody looked at him as a weak link, he came out, read the coverage, as you can see right here, made a really good feel and just got into sync with his wide receivers. And he's got some playmakers on the perimeter that can do a lot of things. And I think that's what he's going to have to try to exploit today. A lot of man-to-man opportunities. Here he is again. The confidence of just sitting in that pocket, reading the coverage, eventually finding the hole in that coverage, and putting the ball right on the money. You add Cam Cameron into the mix with now a very confident Zach Mettenberger, and I think the challenge is to Les Miles, a guy that wants to do it the old-fashioned way like LC. Roll up your sleeves, see who is a tougher guy, his Michigan days. Is he willing to let Cam open things up? Is he willing to let Cam throw on 1st and 10 and then get back to the bread and butter of running the ball? Because they'll have to do that tonight to move the ball against TCU.
Well, Cam Cameron was my quarterback in Indiana.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of biased.
That's my boy.
But Cam has the ability to get the most out of those LSU quarterbacks. The problem is he's the 3rd offensive coordinator in 4 years at LSU. But here's a special note. LSU has won 10 straight openers against BCS teams. Or 6 BCS teams. That's impressive.
And full disclosure, Cam Cameron was my wide receivers and offensive coordinator at Michigan.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So, I mean, since we just...
And Cam Cameron also introduced Les Miles and his wife. And then was staff of Michigan for 7 years, and he's a highly paid guy. Cam Cameron has a 3-year contract. By the end of it, he's going to be making $1.5 million as an offensive coordinator. I think he'll trust him at the beginning if things go well with the passing game. And I think that TCU thinks that Cameron's going to want to come out in a big pro stadium and showcase on opening night and pitch it around and show that Mettenberger is better. And you better hope he's a different guy if you're an LSU fan. His quarterback rating in the red zone,
but
awful.
With the exception of the bowl game against Clemson, Brent Venables' defense played really well. His last 4 games, really from the Alabama game last year, I think his confidence went to a whole different level. And now we saw him in the spring. It's going to be exciting to see him in Cam's offense, kind of an NFL sophisticated scheme. Again, is Les, as the head guy, willing to let it go?
Remember, Cam Cameron is the offensive coach.
And he's your former?
Les Miles is the head coach.
That's right.
Just on
That's right.
And he's been known to get involved a little bit in the offensive side of the ball.
Yes, thank you.
Things are going well, Cam, it's your offense.
I'm telling you.
Let's talk about running the ball.
You cannot just run the ball and be predictable against TCU.
It's going to be electric in Arlington. Massive crowd at Reliance Stadium down the road in Houston. There'll be some people dressed as empty seats tonight. There's not an electric atmosphere for the other Big 12 versus SEC showdown.
It's a good game.
Well, it would be a bonus, frankly, if TCU could hang with LSU or win the game. But this game, this is the game the Big 12 Conference has to have, because Oklahoma State is picked to win the league by a lot of people. Mike Gundy has a dual quarterback system. You got Clint Shelf, not the premier athlete perhaps on the team, but he's a baller. J.W. Walsh is a guy that has a little more mobility, and they'll both play in this game against Mississippi State, which is going to try to get improved quarterback play from Tyler Russell. Can they throw the ball? Can they run the ball a little bit? Keep Oklahoma State's high-powered offense off of the field. Here's Quint Kesselnick with Mike Gundy.
Coach, why is it in the best interest of your program to play two quarterbacks?
Both guys deserve to play. They played well at the end of the season last year, and certainly Clint was a bowl game MVP and deserves to play. And they improved in the spring and had good preseason camp.
Who will be the starter, and what will the PT playing time breakdown look like?
Well, we're not sure yet. We're going to play both of them. Clint's going to go out there first. I've said that from day one. But we expect both guys to play, and we have to see how they move the offense based on how Mississippi State handles each quarterback.
What's the biggest challenge overall that Mississippi State presents?
Well, they're big and strong. They're what people would think of a traditional SEC school. They're really big up front on both sides of the ball. They're fast. Their quarterback's a good player. The running back's a good player. And I think they do a great job on defense of running the football on the second level.
Thanks, Coach. Chris, back to you.
Cowboys offensive players have said Mississippi State hasn't seen our tempo. We're going to play so fast. Those big guys are going to have their tongues hanging out. They're going to be worn out and tired. A lot to prove for Oak State, but also for Mississippi State, which had a winning record but did not beat a team that went to a bowl game. This could jumpstart their season.
This is an intriguing game for you because Oklahoma State's defense gave up 25 points a game last year, but their offense bailed them out by scoring 45 points a game. Mississippi State has had 3 winning seasons in a row and been to bowl games 3 times. This is a very good game. I think it's going to be closer than the experts think. SEC beat Big 12.
Wow. Yeah.
Wait.
Okay.
See?
Yeah.
Wait.
No, I think it's going to be a good game. I think that Mississippi State, when you look at Tyler Russell and what he brings to the offense, he's a very good quarterback, but I don't think he's going to have enough bullets in the chamber to go up against Oklahoma State in that offense. It's just a high explosive offense. They're going to run a lot of plays, try to run Mississippi State's defense into the ground. So I like Oklahoma State in this game.
I think it's a shootout. I think both these quarterbacks are going to put up some numbers. There are 2 in the case of Oklahoma State. If J.W. Walsh gets a chance to play, named to remember in this game and for the entire year in the Big 12 is Josh Stewart. He has a chance to be on the recipient end of making a lot of big plays. You know, we've seen Des Bryant over the years, Justin Blackman. It's Stewart's turn to shine. But I think Oklahoma State will give up some points. The humidity becomes a factor. Who's in better conditioning? Who worked harder in August to be ready for this game will ultimately tell you who's going to win it. I like Oklahoma State, but again, it's going to be a shootout.
Boulder's got to keep them off the field because their defense will get worn out by that tempo. Until you practice against it, it's hard to prepare for it, especially in an opener. We know that lots of college football fans have strong opinions on Tim Tebow. A breaking story from the NFL. Adam Schefter of ESPN reporting the Patriots have released the former Jet quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner at Florida. So he will not be quarterbacking in New England in capacity.
Could be maybe his last opportunity.
He's got more important things in life than being a quarterback in the NFL.
No doubt.
Yeah. Well, like another chair at the end of this thing.
Exactly.
You and him get a little club over here. All right. Welcome into this sea of orange.
All right.
All the way from the Bristol campus to the Clemson campus. The bald man who needs extra strong SPF down here in this southern heat. Welcome, Scott.
Chris, it's great to be with you, and it's great to be back at Clemson. I was here just a couple of weeks ago trying to find my football faith. I'll see if a couple of the Tigers' best players could make a believer out of me. That's as we continue on College Game Day from Clemson, South Carolina.
College Game Day is brought to you by Guitar Center. Save big on the gear of your dreams during the Labor Day sale. Walmart Choice Premium Steak. Try Walmart's best steak ever and see for yourself. And Saints Row 4. Out now. Rated M for mature.
Upon this rock, all we've built. Through the hands of hundreds to the hopes of thousands, you touch, I connect. From a desert floor in California to Death Valley in the Carolinas, as a team's first contact, a program's great ritual. Nothing stands without its foundation. Cornerstone, keystone, touchstone. It's my day. It's game day.
That rock was vandalized. They arrested some Clemson fans for busting the cover and shipping off that rock that came from Death Valley, California. Clemson on Clemson crime? What in the world? But the rock remains. It's an electric moment in college football. Here's what it looks like today. They just decided you can't replace it. You're just going to live with the new version. You touch that rock, you run down the hill, which is surprisingly steep, and you try not to stumble. And when that happens, it's a great entrance. And Scott Van Pelt's been hanging that down here in Clemson in this sea of orange. Scott, you can feel it around here, the anticipation for this game and the fact that you start a season in this sport, everybody can dream. Everybody's got big goals in their head.
That's true, and Chris, I arrive here as a weary traveler. I'm a football pilgrim, and I came here to Clemson, South Carolina, and on this first Saturday of the season, I have an important question for this loud, proud Tiger Nation. My question to you is this: do you believe? All right. Do you believe in the Holy Trinity of Dabo and Sammy and Taj? Do you believe? I don't. Oh! Now, hold on. You see what I did there? I got you running in one direction, then I pulled the rug out from under you, kind of like Clemson in the past. And so the ball man on campus came here just a few weeks ago to see if Sammy and Taj could help get my mind right.
Clemson, Clemson, Clemson. What am I supposed to do with you? I like Boyd. I like Watkins. But why am I supposed to believe? Why am I supposed to believe? Why is there a gnat in my ear? I need some kind of a sign. Something. Thank you. You believe in Taj and Sammy?
Oh, of course we do. They're great.
Whoa, where's that tiger? 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 Where?
Okay, I got it. Stop singing. Should we believe in Clemson this year?
Why not? I think there's always this stigma of Clemson and always fools of Clemson. You know, people believe that, you know, we always do something every year to kind of push us off track or not reach where we're supposed to go because of the type of talent that we have.
Your fan base, it's so big and it's so passionate, but do you feel like they're always waiting for the yeah but game? The Charlie Brown running up to kick the football, like we're gonna do it.
Not anymore, at least. Maybe things in the past have kind of created a culture, but to me, there's a new culture around here. And, I mean, it all starts with the idea of believing. Once you believe you can do something, you're definitely going to be able to achieve it.
When you hear polls at Clemson, what does that mean?
Basically saying that we can't do it. Coach really harped that on us with doing the unthinkable. And I think we kind of got over that barrier with beating LSU.
Here comes the pressure on the blitz. Down the middle for Hopkins. He makes the catch to 40. Holy cow!
A lot of people thought we were out of the game. You could look up in the stands and see people walking out.
When you come out as a freshman, you balled out. I mean, you're unbelievable.
Taj Boyd going downfield. The freshman Watkins takes it in.
How do you grow into that role of being a more vocal leader?
Just watching Taj lead every day in practice and just pick the offense up when we're doing bad. You have to just step out of your comfort zone and just be a leader.
What made you decide to come back?
There was a lot of different things. Last year, I felt like we had a really good season. I felt like we took major strides and steps forward. But there were things that, you know, we didn't accomplish last year that we would have liked to. So why not come back and come back for one season and see if we can do that?
Well, fellas, if I came searching for a place to believe, this is a spot where you better believe come Saturday, right?
To hear the crowd and just looking in, you see all on, it's a great feeling.
I believe. I think I believe. day where the disappointment would reveal itself, Chris. And it's interesting to point out, 4:16. It's a tattoo that Taj got. It's a Bible verse, Corinthians, and essentially it's about believing, faith in the unseen. And as you mentioned earlier, it's also the down and distance of that completion during that drive against LSU. And this is a team, fellas, that I think really believes that that game propels them on to bigger and better things this year. And we begin to find out our answer about whether we should believe tonight. Chris?
I love it, Scott. The Tigers have come to Jesus with the ball man, and now he believes.
That was awesome.
Is he going to be believing at midnight tonight after the Georgia game? We'll find that out.
You know what? That was a great feature, and anybody who's followed Clemson football really understands what Scott's talking about. It's not so much beating an LSU or tonight beating a Georgia. It's not losing after a big win to, like, Scott's team, Maryland, an inferior team. That's pulling a Clemson. So tonight, if they win, that's not going to make me believe. It's avoiding the letdown against an inferior team somewhere in their schedule. Now, last year, to their credit, they lost 2 games. South Carolina, Florida State. Those were 2 top 10 teams. So that's the challenge that Taj Boyd and these players have to have. No let-ups, no matter what happens tonight.
Remember the conversations in year past? Clemson, meet me at camera 3. Take NC State seriously. Don't overlook the Raycom. That's a challenge for down the road. Hey, the quarterbacks tonight are interesting. You got 2 fifth-year seniors. Both of them are graduates. Aaron Murray and Boyd are 1 and 2 in career touchdown passes among the active quarterbacks. Talking to Taj Boyd, he believes he's improved as a passer. He threw downfield, passes of 25 yards or more 48 times last year, more than any quarterback in the country. But his offensive line has got to protect him better so we can get the ball to the likes of Sammy Watkins. And David, Sammy says, look out. I'm going to have a huge year. 80 catches, 15 or 16 touchdowns. 1,400 yards. That's coming.
Absolutely. He burst on the scene. Remember, he was suspended. Well, how about Nuke Hopkins being gone? Who steps up? Martavius Bryant's going to be the next guy. 6'5", 200-plus pounds, can go deep. He's got Sammy on the other side, got a great quarterback. This is just the next guy in line at receiver.
But it's an interesting story because he's been the most talented receiver.
Say that again.
Let me just say
that again.
Physically, Martavius Bryant's the most talented receiver on the Clemson roster, but he also got sent home from bowl practice. And when they came back from beating LSU, they had a meeting with Dabo and Martavius, and it was like, listen, you need to do these things if you want to be on this roster. And to Martavius' credit, he's done that. So he's a guy to keep an eye on as a compliment to Sammy Watkins.
And Chad Morris wants to play even faster this year than last year. We're talking about 90 plays a game. In this heat, that would be a tough one on defense.
It's huge on a defense, and I think you can start to play faster. You got a third-year starting quarterback now. I mean, you know what to expect. You got Sammy Watkins for his 3rd year in the system. The offensive line is back. I think the only question mark about this offense is going to be the tailback spot. And I know they've got talent, and they always bring in talent. Ellington was one of the most underrated, underappreciated backs in the country. I think who fills that void at tailback?
Roderick McDowell, 25 times last year. He's good. Zach Brooks is more of the power back. The story to me in this game is Taj Boyd's seen every defense. He's a veteran. He's going to run these snaps fast. Georgia's breaking in. Everybody's new with the exception of Damian Swann. How do these new young secondary players step up on the road in this environment against tempo and an offense that thrives on deception?
They're like LSU. They've recruited very well at Georgia. There's talent. They look pretty, but you don't lose a guy like Jones and those defensive guys right up the middle of the team and get better on defense right away. We're going to see how they look on opening night.
They underperformed for the most part of the season last year. I mean, they weren't even top of the SEC in defense. So
what Bama run for in the SEC?
I mean, Bama basically said you go to the child's table.
350.
And it was just handoff, handoff, handoff. So
there's no shortage of athletic ability. It's just the experience that you lose. And you wonder how quickly they can get it going.
You wonder if either defense is going to be able to stop the offense tonight. We got a lot of points, much more in this game, including predictions coming ahead. Well, we're about halftime. About halftime of this 4-hour extravaganza. You guys hold it up.
Take the locker room, baby.
Get a sweat rag for these guys.
Brand new. That's how hot it is.
Oh, boy. We're going to talk about Brian Kelly and the Irish. There are many people perhaps overreacting to the beatdown from Bama, perhaps overreacting to the loss of Golson, who think they're really going to slide. We'll talk about the Irish. And what about the mighty MAC? Can they continue the recent upset trend? Well, Herbstreet's already called for a MAC team to knock off the Gators. College Game Day, biggest edition ever. Coming back.
You're grinding all spring and all summer with your guys. You go through camp, 2 days, in the sweat, heat, out there grinding, and finally get to week 1. It's kind of a payday for college athletes just to go out and just show everything that you've been working hard for.
Walking out that tunnel, that's the best feeling in the world. Just hearing your fans scream, realizing that the season's here and it's time to go.
There's a lot of raw emotion. You kind of forget that feeling of competitiveness, what it means to be man on man, and it actually counts.
There's nothing better than starting the season off the way we're starting at Clemson. It really makes for a great offseason because our guys know that there's no easing into the season.
The first game against a team like Georgia, man, is going to be unbelievable. Once you step on that field, man, running down that hill, it's a surreal moment.
Go. Yeah. No easing into the season. I like that. I should have used that to set the scene here. Use it real fan cam. Zooming over some fans who may be sober to find out that it's about halfway through this 4-hour show. Terrific scene here. Pace yourselves. It's a late one tonight. Could be a long one with a lot of points expected. Easing into the season. You maybe could call that the case at Notre Dame.
Fowler.
Here comes Temple.
How good is Fowler?
4 wins last year. Now they got Matt Rule, David, who's a new head coach. He's a Penn State linebacker who takes over the reins there. And Notre Dame expects to win this game, and then it gets real for him with the game against Michigan next week. Have we announced that we're going to be there yet? I guess we haven't made it quite official, but good chance to be in Ann Arbor when Notre Dame goes up there, provided they don't stumble against the Temple Owls. We heard last year how big a part of the defense Manti Te'o was, how everything flowed to that middle linebacker, how he was so crucial. We're going to find out now about the defense minus Te'o, but if you judge him from up front, guys like Lewis Nick, Stephon Tuitt may not be a better group than the Irish have. The quarterback situation, of course, with Everett Golson sitting out this entire season and vowing to improve and come back next year, it's Tommy Rees's time. Now, Tommy Rees was called Turnover Tommy, and that was by the Notre Dame fans. Because in his career, he has 34 touchdown passes, but he has 30 turnovers. Can he take care of the football better? They sure hope so.
I think with all that time he's been through, you know, he's never missed a beat. He's never got down on himself. He never kind of, I guess, gave up when he could have had the chance to.
Tommy Rees is a guy that they rallied around last year when he came in and helped us win football games. He's been there since his freshman year, so he's got great respect from all of his teammates.
He's capable to get out, roll out and throw, and make some plays with his feet.
I was really trying to, further my game through understanding and, try to make some plays when, the situations weren't great. Finding the time when to throw the ball away, when to take, a zero play instead of turning it into something bad.
He doesn't need to be RG3 out there, but we'd like him to escape and keep plays alive, and I think he's shown that he can do that this year.
Well, he's not going to be RG3, trust me, but if he could just protect the football. Mr. Corso's back. We got a new tie.
New tie.
Listen, purple tie?
We've been out here so long, my old tie went out of style.
Went in at halftime and changed the tie.
Get ready.
And don't leave any goodie from the bank circuit. Exactly.
We went on.
What do you expect for Notre Dame? You went out in the preview show.
Yes.
Didn't you say off a 12-0 year, it'd be a tremendous year for the Irish if they could win 8 games?
8 games.
They don't want to hear that.
Well, the defense, if Notre Dame returns 8 players from the defense that allowed the second most points, 12 points a game. But they are a football team. If they run the ball, defense, and Tommy Rees manages the game like McCarron at Alabama, I think they can win 8 in this brutal schedule.
Well, Coach, I think that they will be very good, but what they won't be is undefeated. And I think Tommy Rees, though, is better than just a game manager. This is a kid who's going to play with a chip on his shoulder. I have to give him a tremendous amount of credit for the way he played last year, the way he accepted his demotion to Everett Golson, but still stayed on top of his game well enough to come into games and win games for them throughout last season. So I think they're going to be a good team because their defense is good, too. But Tommy Rees, more than a game manager. I think he's going to be a good player for them.
18 career starts.
Yes.
So they're very fortunate to have him there in the bullpen, considering what happened to Everett Golson. The one thing Brian Kelly does as well as anybody is he doesn't have a system and then fit a quarterback and ask him to adjust to his system. He'll adjust his scheme and his play calling to the quarterback skill set. So it's not going to be Everett Golson's type of offense with Tommy Rees. He's going to have to get the ball out quick when they throw and rely, as Lee said, on running the football. Look for true freshman Greg Bryant to come in, who could be a factor. But how do they replace Tyler Eifert? How do they replace Theo Riddick? That, to me, are the questions. We know their defense is going to keep them in ball games. But they're going to need a little bit more. And those two guys on the edge were outstanding for that offense last year.
They have a linebacker, a freshman linebacker named Jalen Smith. Big-time player. Watch out for Jalen Smith. He's going to be in the mix defensively, too. I think their secondary will be better, too.
Yeah, but that schedule is brutal. I'm with you guys. I mean, if they win 8, that's a great year. If they win 9, that's sensational, considering who they play.
They win 8 and go to the BCS bowl game.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, if you win 12, 9 wins is never going to be considered a great season. Brian Kelly has raised expectations right there. They don't want to hear about 8 or 9 wins.
Yep.
They're going to get into the Big Ten portion of the schedule coming up beginning next week with Michigan. Meanwhile, the Big Ten, can they get out at week 1? Can they get past Labor Day without losing to the MAC? That's the question.
Well, there's Gary Anderson, fresh from Utah State, now the head coach, and he brings a similar attitude. I don't think that it's going to change a whole lot. Barry Alvarez is still there as the AD, right? They're going to run the football with James White, Melvin Gordon. That's going to be an important part of what they try to do in trying to be able to establish that line of scrimmage, take some of the pressure off of that passing game.
But Wyoming at Nebraska. Now, Wyoming, this offense, they can pass it around a little bit. They were second in the Mountain West passing last season, and they're going to test Nebraska's secondary, which is the strength of that team. Let's watch and see strength versus strength. Who's going to prevail in this matchup, Chris?
Iowa today hosts Northern Illinois, and Jordan Lynch, who's being hyped as a Heisman candidate by the Husky publicity department, didn't have big numbers against Iowa, ran wild against everywhere else. The Huskies had the Hawkeyes beaten in Soldier Field. They let them get away. Iowa, once again, going to have to rely on that hard-nosed defense. Does not look like an explosive team for Kirk Ferentz.
Well, we have Michigan and Central Michigan and Ann Arbor. We're finally going to get this. The torch has been handed officially to Devin Gardner. This is his era. I'm excited to see him in Al Borges' offense. Jeremy Gallen is a guy who's going to make a lot of plays for him. He's kind of his go-to guy, even though he's undersized. Very impressed with his hands and his routes. Number 10 is a go-to player. And Fitzgerald Toussaint, his health is paramount, I think, to be able to run the kind of offense that they want to run. Let's see how he gets started today.
Buffalo is not a MAC power. Ohio State is a power, period. Ranked number 2 coming in, and there's number 5, Braxton Miller. Working a lot on his passing mechanics in the offseason. Urban Meyer truly believes you're going to see an improved passer. Otherwise, he said, we will have failed if he doesn't throw it a lot better. Jeff Driscoll, he's got to throw it a lot better, doesn't he? If you look at just at the passing stats, he's down near the bottom of SEC quarterbacks. There's lots of reasons for that, but this guy's got too much talent. However, the Gators against the Rockets, who can score, upset alert. And here's why you have to worry about the MAC teams, because Ohio with the Happy Valley and won by 10 last year. Like about the Huskies, really feel they should have beaten Iowa. And Bowling Green hung around with the Gators there. And Toledo took Arizona to overtime. But close calls are not really what MAC programs are about anymore. They've improved. There's a lot of good players down there. So they don't want moral victories. They want victories against the Big Ten.
2 names. You go ahead.
Yeah. Yo, Kirk.
Yo.
This is your team, isn't it? Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois, that's
like
my team.
They have enough firepower to upset Iowa. They got 8 returning starters. They got Jordan that's coming back. They average 38 points a game, but their defense is shaky. They might not do it. His team. He likes
my team. I love that.
Northern Illinois.
That's where the love affair happened. Just after the ball.
I love the quarterback.
Yeah,
right. I agree with Coach. I like Northern Illinois. I think that they have a chance to beat Iowa. I do.
He's not picking them. You are.
I'm picking them.
All right. Here's 2 names that I want you to remember. So later tonight, you remember, it was a show. They were on for 4 hours, and somebody said something about that. Here's the 2 names. Matt Campbell. You don't know who he is, but I'll tell you in a second. And Terrence Owens. All right? Terrence Owens is the quarterback from Toledo. Matt Campbell is a young, up-and-coming head coach from Toledo. So when Toledo's players throw the water or the Gatorade on top of Matt Campbell, you're going to remember, I heard that this morning. So Matt Campbell and Toledo, they don't just hang around. They beat the Florida Gators in the swamp. You heard it right here.
Wow.
One way or the other.
Well,
beat them. No
beat
way.
them.
The
Beat them
Heat
flat
will
out.
beat them. The Heat will beat them.
Okay, we'll see.
There are 5 Florida Gator players suspended for the Upner Pure 4. The great DB is one of them. J.R. Boswick, not suspended.
Right,
Remember it on this show.
Sure,
You don't have to remember who said it. Just this morning on Game Day.
Oh, I remember who said it. You
Matt
said it.
He said it for sure.
I'm putting them out there. So whenever they get blown out, you'll remind them. And when Toledo wins, he'll be like, oh,
right. I live in Orlando. I'm not picking Toledo.
You understand you're accountable for what's said at it.
Yeah, but if it hits,
that's a bold statement. That's a really bold statement.
Don't worry.
Yeah. You hit big.
I like it when it's the outright call.
Right.
There it is.
24-point dog.
There it is. Terrence Owens. Terrence Owens, the quarterback from Toledo.
He's telling you the result and who's going to be the hero. He's painting the visual picture.
Dumping the Gatorade.
Have you watched the Florida offense?
I've watched, the Game of Thrones and got a drill from that. I was watching Discovery Channel and got a drill from that. Sometimes you have to go outside of your industry to find ways to come back and affect it.
And there's George Whitfield. He'll join us here. You saw him in his backyard there with the tennis rackets and the waves, the quarterback guru, using some interesting terminology. This guy works with this about every top college quarterback. His insights straight ahead on College Game Day.
Really.
Let's go, let's go, let's go! It's just great to be a Clemson Tiger. This is a national championship team.
We're ready to roll.
Touchdown!
The Cheez-It Real Fan Cam is brought to you by New Cheez-It Zings. Show us what it means to be an amazing College Game Day fan with #ZingsFan.
And our real fan of the week, Mr. Tom Wilson from Orlando, Florida. But folks around here just know him as Clemson Tom. 500,000 YouTube views. He's trademarked the word possum. The Bleacher Report labeled him the #1 fan in all of sports. #1 fan in all of sports. That's a hell of a title. Clemson Tom, our real fan of the week. Samantha?
#1 fan, George, you're not George, you're Kirk. We're going to talk about George. George Whitfield is the #1 quarterback whisperer. Created an industry now that's incredibly popular. Obviously worked with Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, Johnny Manziel, of course. A lot of money to be made in this industry. What's interesting to me, Kirk, the first guy he ever coached, a 4th grader. That is the definition of grassroots.
Yeah, that's the thing that's crazy about what George has done. And you go back and you think about what makes him such an expert. He played a couple years for Jim Tressel at Youngstown State. He played a couple years in the Arena League, but really it wasn't until after his playing days that he found his true passion, which is training these quarterbacks. As Sam said, it started with a 4th grader, and now he's working with some of the best quarterbacks in the country, both at the collegiate level and also the NFL.
It's you versus you. Keep your tie on. No slumping.
Coming back.
Index. You got to sit down and battle that sand.
He has the knowledge of a 75-year-old man.
The term quarterback guru has been used to describe me. I don't see myself as that. I look at myself as an engineer, quarterback engineer.
Excellent. Quality work.
When elite quarterbacks want to improve their game, they call George Whitfield the quarterback guru. His students include Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton, and Johnny Manziel.
Coach Whitfield's name just kind of kept popping up. Cam Newton kept popping up. Ben Roethlisberger, big names kept popping up. It was more what I was looking for in a quarterback coach.
I felt like I had to get in contact with him. He's almost like an ambassador for us, really like a football geek.
Whitfield's quarterback pupils have combined for 4 Super Bowl appearances, 11 Pro Bowls, and 2 Heisman trophies. His tactics are unconventional, but there's no denying the results.
I've watched, the Game of Thrones and got a drill from that. I was watching Discovery Channel and got a drill from that. Sometimes you have to go outside of your industry to find ways to come back and affect it.
Stay on task. Disregard what's happening here.
Obviously, he's not 6'5", like, you know, Clowney facing South Carolina, so he brings the rackets out there to help him out for us to practice getting the ball up and over defenders' hands.
You start to build more confidence, because if you can do it out here, when you get in the game, it's not a problem at all.
It's going to be cold, it's going to be wet, it's going to be chaotic. Disregard, let's go to work.
The beach, the ocean, you know, they provide instability and challenges, and they force you to deal with all those unknown factors. So we embrace it all because that's what the game is.
Being in the water, it causes a lot of resistance, gets you really strong and really lets you know how hard you need to pop your legs and really set your feet towards a target.
If your body took itself out to dinner, this is going to pay the tip. Pull that bolster up like you're wearing a big tie.
Keep your tie tight, you know, keep that tux, you know, clean.
Holding that cape, holding that cape.
I would start laughing like, how the heck he come up with this?
One of the things that we refer to throughout the year is just keeping a three-piece suit on. You want to have a firm base, you want to be low, but at the same time, you want to have great posture because it's so important to have that posture when you're making your throws.
Nice job with the tie on. Good job with the base. Who's up next? Let's go.
Whitfield's client list is expanding each year. So far in 2013, Whitfield has worked with 29 quarterbacks from the power conferences.
You can go a lot of places and train, or with a lot of quarterback coaches. Some places out there do a great job, like a car wash. And then there are some that actually get up under the hood to truly improve the vehicle. I see myself as a true mechanic.
Kirk, it's one thing with the NFL guys. They can afford to pay for this kind of help. But for the college guys, how does it work with NCAA rules?
That's the thing that I think sometimes people jump to conclusions, but that'd be like me asking you, how do kids go to spring break? How can you afford to go to spring break? He's not charging outrageous numbers. For these college quarterbacks, it's $100 an hour for them to train, and they're not getting it free. They pay the $100. Their parents, I'm sure, help them make the flights. But to jump to conclusions and assume that he's trying to do this and do it in a way that's in an underground world is unfair.
You're saying George isn't rolling in the dough? I think he's doing all right now.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
He's got a nice look there today. I think he's doing all right.
Well, George's business been exposed here. George kind enough to join us here at Clemson. He'll be contributing to College Game Day and also across the ESPN platforms throughout the season. George, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, you were coming here anyway because you work both with Aaron Murray and Taj Boyd there in San Diego. Give us something you work with him on that you're going to see show up on the field tonight for Taj Boyd first.
Taj Boyd today, first of all, he has worked extremely hard on his pocket tolerance. How well can you handle the game? How bad can the conditions be that you succeed in the pocket? He's worked incredibly hard. Secondly, he's worked a lot on his second floor throws to be able to get over basically a flat defender or a linebacker and get the ball back down. And he's improved his what we call MPGs. He's down to 219 pounds, so his miles per gallon is going to be incredible.
What about Aaron Murray? He's had some big games, but has always been questioned by people in some of the biggest games that he plays. What have you worked with Aaron on in the offseason?
Aaron has really improved what I would call his horsepower. We did a lot with his lower body activation, being able to drive off the ground, using his legs, and then getting his opposite arm involved. And so he's, finishing throws. He's stronger downfield vertically, and he's more efficient. So I would say Aaron put an awful lot of time in improving his horsepower.
You expect big games from both guys and lots of points tonight. Meanwhile, you've also worked with Christian Hackenberg, the true freshman quarterback for Penn State. He's going to step into a pro stadium and debut against Syracuse. What's his skill set? What do we watch for today from him?
Competitiveness. That's not so much of a specific term in terms of a quarterback element, but he came out with us for a week at the Elite 11 camp with Trent Dilfer and the guys. First thing that jumped out is competitive temperament. Some guys will fight if they're pushed all the way back into a corner. Some guys will jump up if you just throw a light challenge out there. Christian's the latter. You couple that with Coach O'Brien's ability to craft an offense around him, expect Penn State to come home with a win today.
A lot of mechanics, part psychologists. We can tell that you're going to be a good addition to us. We appreciate your perspective. George Whitfield, we'll see him along down the line. Plenty more still to come on College Game Day. One of the more intriguing openers has Northwestern visiting Cal. Pat Fitzgerald's been practicing his Wildcats at night to get ready for the game. Can they go on the road as favorites and knock off the Bears and spoil Sonny Dykes' debut? And, of course, Urban Meyer closing in on an opening kickoff for a season of high hopes. They asked Urban why he's not so popular with some of his peers.
If there were a head coach's fight club, or what happens in fight club stays in fight club, there'd be a few that want to take a swing at you.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
You seem surprised?
Beautiful scene. These folks are holding up. Only 90 minutes to go. Goodyear zooming overhead. Nice steamy day. What's the kickoff temperature expected tonight, Mr. Herbstreit, when you and Brent are in the booth? Dew point. Well, before Death Valley was built, here at Bowman Field, this was the seat of, well, not just the football games, but that's baseball. That's right to the left. They played basketball.
Yes.
Basketball on grass.
Everything.
Out here. And now the football team plays basketball on grass. And right. John Heisman was the coach of the early Clemson teams around the turn of the century, and they used to play it out here. Amazing. I'm not sure it's as flat as a minor football field, but this is pretty. Great scene. Great to be back on a campus to open the season of College Game Day. We just might come calling it Columbus sometime this season because everybody expecting the Buckeyes to have a very special season. ESPN2 will have their opening game. It's a noon Eastern time kick. Big favorites against Buffalo, which is not one of the MAC's stronger teams. You know all about the 12-game winning streak, and people are expecting another 12-0 season, heading, of course, to the Big Ten championship game, and they'll be eligible for that. And then, of course, people are already speculating in Columbus and all around the country, how would Urban Meyer and Ohio State fare against the SEC champion? You got a ringside look at the championship game in the Power of Alabama as he was working with us, of course, last season. Lots of factors to talk about in this team. The new faces, the improvement of Braxton Miller. I visited Urban recently in Columbus for this sit-down.
And it's so easy to be average. We don't want to coach average. It takes a little something special to be a great player. Push yourself to be great.
This is your 12th opening day as a head coach in college football. What makes that occasion special?
It's payday. You know, it's your day, and I tell our players this all the time. You don't come to work every day for mat drills, for spring ball, for off-season training. You come for the pageantry college football. So it's always special, and this one's going to be real special.
You've spent a tremendous amount of energy creating a chip on the shoulder of your teams. Why?
I think angry is the way to play. You know, this is a tough, violent, nasty sport. The best teams I've ever been associated with, the best players, are the ones that are always trying to prove something.
And Urban Meyer leads the Buckeyes to their 6th perfect season in school history.
After you complete a perfect season, the booster paper comes out, and the big headline in January, stemming the tide. Now, this is about 11 months before any potential matchup with Alabama in the BCS championship game. Is there an Alabama/SEC obsession around here?
I think there is. It's certainly not created by the coaching staff. We work every bit as hard as everybody. They're the best right now. We're just trying to win the day and get better each day. But there's always that element of if we really want to shoot for the stars, we know who's at the top.
You talked a lot about the offseason improvement of Braxton Miller. How will a new improved number 5 be expressed on Saturdays?
I expect him to be more dynamic, not necessarily with a ball in his hand, if that makes sense. And that means distributing the ball to the people that can do what they're supposed to do. And he is really doing well. We better have much better passing stats, or we didn't do a very good job recruiting or development. This is about as anxious I've been to watch a kid play.
Why are you such a magnet for criticism?
That's a good question. I get asked that often. I don't know. I used to worry about it.
You don't give it any thought?
I did. I don't really much anymore.
What about the quiet criticism from your peers? Not the media, but fellow coaches.
I don't know that one.
Well, they wouldn't say it on the record.
Yeah, I missed those criticism.
If there were a head coach's fight club, or what happens in fight club stays in fight club, there'd be a few that want to take a swing at you.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
You seem surprised?
Yeah, I don't
Come on.
know that.
I'm not buying that.
I'm very surprised.
Really?
Yeah. Other head coaches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you hold your own in there if you needed to?
You're darn right I hold my own.
He really was caught off guard by that question. He was fine afterwards. He went in the weight room, got in the treadmill. He wasn't bothered, but he was surprised that people want to take a poke. Yeah. I don't know if, hey, listen, you win championships, people are going to get upset.
And when you have a lot of success, there's going to be a lot of jealousy.
You win, you're handsome, you're jealous. Jealousy.
He's got a lot of good players, and he recruits hard, and that's part of the problem other coaches have. You got Noah Spence, you got Adolphus Washington, you got a team, Desmond, that looks the part. When I was visiting him, you see all the talent in the field. Braxton Miller's skills are obvious. His improvement as a passer evident in practice. You sort of want to see it in a game. Right. They won't have C.J. Barnett. The safety is out hurt today against Buffalo. Not going to make any difference. What about the #2 ranking and the idea that it's going to be Ohio State against somebody in the championship game?
I was actually surprised when they were ranked #2 in the country, because based on what I saw last year, I thought it was just such a one-dimensional team with Braxton Miller. He was the guy who, he relied heavily on. Even talking to Urban Meyer when he was up in Bristol, he said, hey, he was our best player. We had to ride that pony. But now, they've done a fantastic job recruiting, and they've brought in some guys who are supposedly extremely talented, but they're not experienced yet. They don't have that type of experience. We won't be able to see just how good they are until they take the field, Lee.
They have the offense to win the national title. They start 4 linemen who started every game last year. They got a dangerous quarterback in Braxton Miller who counted for 28 points, 28 touchdowns. The bad news, the Buckeyes, they have returned 4 men from a defense that gave up 22 points a game. Maybe that's good news. Get rid of those guys. That 4 guys.
Yeah, you're right. They're breaking in 6 new starters in their front 7, and you just saw Ryan Shazier. He's going to have to be accountable to kind of be the leader up there. If you talk to Urban Meyer, there's no question that there's a lot of talent. They'll have to do without Barnett today, but the talent is there. They're athletic, but they're unproven right now. And if you guys go back to when Ohio State seemed to be going to BCS bowl games with Jim Tressel every year, the staple was their defense. The last 2 years, they've not been the same defense. So we know the offense is going to score a lot of points. Dontre Wilson, #1, remember that name. He's their kind of version of Percy Harvin. He's a true freshman. But on defense, can they take the next step?
What about Noah Spence? Remember that name?
Noah Spence.
He's been unblockable.
Adolphus Washington. Both of those guys are defensive ends off the edge. They're too deep across the board. They're big and rotating the front. Linebackers still a little bit of a question around Shazier.
Sometimes the ranking is based on the schedule. We'll bring in our researcher, Chris Felica, who will join us from time to time. You got a camera and a mic. There are some skeptics in the desert, Mr. Felica. Ohio State, neutral field against the top SEC teams and other title contenders. How would the Buckeyes be rated going into the game?
They would be an underdog against 6 SEC teams. They'd be an underdog against Oregon. They would be an underdog against Stanford. I think the only team...
Steer that camera down for me. Go ahead.
They would be an underdog against 6 SEC teams. They would be an underdog against Oregon and an underdog against Stanford. I think the only top 10 team they'd be favored against is probably Louisville.
Wow, now that's just one gauge. I mean, the experts don't decide who wins the games on the field, but that's very interesting, and it would be a surprise to Ohio State fans.
If you're looking at last year's Ohio State team, that's very accurate. I think this year's Ohio State team, because of the influx of young talent, I think it's going to be a different story. You put that undefeated Ohio State team on the field last year against Alabama, it's very similar, close to the results that they had against Notre Dame. They weren't ready for that. Urban talked about they're not ready for that. But now, after a year, again, how quickly does that young talent step up? We'll have to wait and see.
Remember, a lot of it is public perception of the Big Ten not being very good. They're very, very good.
Understood.
Or the jealousy you talked about with people because he's handsome and he's won and all that other good stuff, right?
Yeah, Mr. Feinbaum and Mr. Felica both give it up. Oh, he's just repeating information. That was an opinion. Feinbaum's an opinion. But the Ohio State fans taking some shots.
Let's see.
Meanwhile, the beautiful scene in Berkeley. Renovated stadium there. It's a night game. Northwestern's been practicing at night under the lights to get ready for a 10:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Northwestern time kickoff over on ESPN2. Sonny Dykes takes over a Cal program that won 4 games. There's a very strong trend that Mr. Felica would tell you if we put him on camera again, which we're not going to because we've used that up for this segment. But when you lose 8 games, you win about 4 games, you change your coach, and then you open the next season against a team like Northwestern coming off 6 or more wins. Since 1990, those teams in Cal's position tonight are 6 and 62. Interesting. So you got Fitzgerald with the quarterback combo against a Cal defense that was, in a word last year, awful. Let's see how Pat Fitzgerald and the Cats have been preparing.
Push off me and go. Give me one last parting shot, all right? Here we go.
it's a new team. It's a new beginning. And if you got points for what you accomplished last year, the game of football would be very different.
That bang, break his ribs. Good. All right? Good.
It's a great challenge for us. Probably you could argue it's one of the more difficult challenges of any Big Ten team to go on the road and play the game like we are in the opener. There's no easing into it for us.
Gonna have to communicate tonight, Coach Long. Got a little wind in my ears. Can't quite hear the call, linebackers.
As we've gone into game week now, we've changed, and now we're practicing at 9 p.m., getting ready for what's going to be a 7:30 kickoff on the West Coast. So big change for us, but at the same time, itineraries, naps, all the other stuff is all insignificant when the ball goes up in the air. It's about the 60 minutes on Saturday night.
Enjoyed that. It's the first time that Coach Fitzgerald has allowed us to put a microphone on.
That was good.
That was good. Now his defense is going to go against a true freshman starting quarterback for Cal. Jared Goff takes over what they call him the Bear Raid offense. It's a play on the Air Raid, which Sonny Dykes ran. So you got a true freshman, high-speed offense. Here comes Northwestern with a lot of good players.
Yeah, but Northwestern, remember, last year won its first bowl game in 64 years. And they've got skilled people. Vendrick Mark is a superstar in waiting, and Pat Fitzgerald, the coach, has won 8 straight home games. 8 straight openers, excuse me.
Yeah, they're on the road tonight.
Every game he's won as an opening as a coach.
Yeah, no, Pat Fitzgerald, I think, is one of the more underrated coaches in all of college football, and I like what he's done with that program. But Sonny Dykes, he's going to bring an offensive system that's going to put some points on the board. At La Tech, they average 51 points a game. He has a running back, Brendan Bigelow, who averaged 9.8 yards per carry last season and actually had 2 long touchdowns against the Buckeyes, one of 59 and another one of 81 yards. So watch out for Bigelow, too.
You know, being a Big Ten guy, the Big Ten historically struggles traveling out to the West Coast.
Yeah.
I want to see how Pat Fitzgerald works on the psyche of his team in a game that they're expected to win, in a year where they're expected to challenge for a Big Ten championship against a team breaking in a true freshman quarterback. To me, this is more about a game between the ears for Northwestern. They're going to win this game, but I want to see if they can overcome some of that, kind of the distractions.
Sure. Interesting. He's done everything he can, Fitzgerald, to get his team ready for the interesting time slot, that late night kickoff. We'll see if it pays off. You mentioned Northwestern's bowl win last year. The previous bowl win they had was 1949 in the Rose Bowl. That was the only other Northwestern Cal meeting.
64 years.
10 wins last year. Not a lot of people remember that.
He's a good football coach.
Well, speaking of 10 wins, A&M had a monster season a year ago.
Hey.
And they're calling him Johnny Halftime, having a little fun with the half-game suspension. Got the tunes going as he warms up. They'll have plenty of time to watch the quarterbacks Hill and Joko quarterback that opening half against Rice, and then it'll be Manziel running out of the tunnel. Sam Houston State next week, and then, of course, the Tide come calling. Much more, including predictions of the games coming up here from Clemson.
Rites of Passage is brought to you by Coke Zero. With real Coke taste and zero compromise, Coke Zero lets you enjoy everything.
Coke Zero, Rites of Passage. Pictures here from yesterday's first Friday parade at Clemson. Takes place each year in the Friday afternoon prior to the first home game. Floats from various fraternities and sororities and other campus organizations represented in the parade roll down Main Street, adjusted traffic, and it culminates in the amphitheater in the middle of campus. So this, the Coke Zero, best seats in the house. Students earning the rights in there. There are some Georgia fans allowed in there.
Sneaking in there.
Section 0.
Making it chicken coop.
That's right.
Well, there'll be a full house at Kyle Field. Lots of anticipation for the return of this man. You know about all the histrionics in the offseason. The last time he stepped on the field, by the way, he was absolutely dismantling the Oklahoma Sooners in the Cotton Bowl. And then he went everywhere in the world, did everything possible to enjoy his offseason. And now, Kirk, we're going to see what you talked about. the offseason improvement in Manziel as a passer. How much are we going to learn, if anything, against Rice, with no idea what the game's going to look like when he comes in the second half today?
Again, to me, it's really not about, Des said it earlier, Rice or Sam Houston State. To me, it's about getting into sync and getting into rhythm with a new group of wide receivers. If you are sitting there thinking all this noise and all these distractions and the NCAA is going to affect him, you're wrong. If anything, he's one of those guys that the bigger the lights, the more pressure that's on, the more he's going to deliver. So I think he's going to play great when he gets in. I'm anxious to see him get into rhythm with these new receivers.
I'm just trying to figure out what he's listening to. I'm trying to read his list. I'm thinking it's probably Drake.
Oh, it's got to be Drake.
Yeah, but which Drake song is it, you know?
It's definitely Drake.
I agree with you. I mean, Johnny Manziel, I think he has the ability to compartmentalize things like this and just go out there and play. And, you know, that's like his safe haven anyway. In between the white lines, that's where he can be Johnny football and do what he loves to do. So I agree with you. He's probably going to play well, but he's the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. He's supposed to play well against Rice, whether he misses a quarter, 2 quarters, or what have you. So it's to be expected.
I think the one thing about him we can't forget, he's an amazing competitor. And anything he does, golf, sports, anything else,
dead right.
he's an amazing competitor. That's going to carry him through.
It's true. When I went out to San Diego with George to watch him train, that's the thing that really blew me away. Des, you won the Heisman. I know you went into the NFL after that. But what blew me away was kid wins the Heisman as a freshman. And all this talk about he's out partying, he's going to the frat house, he's hanging out with Drake and LeBron. To see him train the way he did shocked me, because that did not look like a guy that was like going through the motions to get better.
And that was the best thing that I heard all summer about him, because I think the public perception is this guy's just out there having a good time at NBA Finals. He's at clubs, he's at parties, he's in Austin, Texas at parties, and that he's not working hard. So that was great to hear that from you, because I would never imagine that.
Oh, I agree. I'm not that concerned about what the offseason stuff was. You are concerned about the signing the stuff. We talked about this a lot earlier. You have to figure out for yourself if you believe that he signed those many items and didn't get any money for it. The NCAA couldn't find proof. That's why he's only sitting a half game. And in no way would I excuse him or any other player, because he's far from the only guy out there doing signing. You cannot excuse what we all know is a violation of the rules. But there is a climate there that I hope we never see again from a guy who wins the Heisman Trophy or stars in college football. And his family's been bothered, and again, it doesn't excuse what he may or may not have done, but people made a lot of money off Johnny Manziel. I mean, ESPN, we put him out there at the ESPYs. We got to have you out there at the ESPYs, and of course, we largely fund this sport, which puts dollars into it, and the players don't see much of it, and that's a big part of the debate. ESPN is a huge part of that. But I hope, Desmond, you can relate to this, that schools do not do what A&M frankly did with Johnny Manziel in the offseason. Get on a private plane. Go see this donor. Go visit that corporation. They didn't ask him. They told him to do it again and again and again and again. And that wasn't free. The school got banked for that, and I just think you can go too far with that.
What do you mean they told him? I mean, if somebody told Des, you have to go somewhere, you think Des is going to be like, oh, sir, yes, sir, I'll be there at 6.
You didn't come back to Michigan after winning the Heisman. If you're coming back for a year and someone, Bo Schembechler or somebody else tells you you're going to go do it, what do you do?
Yeah, you know, I can't even fathom that. I can't fathom that. I can't fathom missing practices. I can't fathom missing workouts just because they want me to do something that's related to some sort of corporate sponsorship. You know, that was not how Bo was wired. So, you know, that I wouldn't have had to deal with anything like that.
I think a player, including Johnny Manziel, should not be paid for anything, including autographs, until his eligibility is let go.
Oh, okay.
When he gets finished, then cash in on it, but not while he's eligible. I don't think they ought to get a penny for autographs or signings.
He probably shouldn't sign an autograph until he's eligible to get paid for it then.
Once his eligibility, is up, then make all the money you want to make.
I mean, you know, they're selling like tables at a banquet for $20,000 just to come sit next to this young man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only feel exploited to a point where you're going to want to get compensated for being exploited. Yeah.
I think, and this is a whole different can of worms, you know, about paying a player or does a player own his own autograph, and should he be able to sell that? And we've talked about that quite a bit.
And we're still going to talk about it more in another week.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I just really think that, Chris, you're right. I mean, and you know what's happened with the NCAA, and the walls seem to be crumbling on them with what Jay Billis was tweeting about the individual players having their jerseys sold on their own website, and what's happened with this Miami Hurricane case and the way that's been drug up, and now with Johnny Manziel. So I think this might be a brick in the foundation of change. I think we may look back at this era, and we're going to look at Johnny Manziel, and he could be an individual that changes the rules for the future.
It would be an ironic poster boy for the exploitation of players. The one guy, one of the least needy players in college football, frankly, because the families got plenty of cash, as has been well established.
But lost some cool points there.
The NCAA audited several generations of Manziel accounts and didn't find anything that they shouldn't have found. So he's out there after halftime, and we think he's going to have a monster season. Speaking of quarterbacks, Alabama's A.J. McCarron good to go today. He has a special bond with a little girl that has been forged in strength, resilience, and a penchant for bucking the odds.
We've both been through tough times. The doctors both told our families we were supposed to die. You know, to me, we're both miracles, walking miracles in a way.
College Game Day is brought to you by AT&T. Tackle Coach's Weekly Challenge, and you could be the fan that wins a VIP trip to Game Day.
Some of these folks had all summer to think up the sign, and the creativity is evident. Johnny Manziel, the target of a lot of stuff. Johnny Manziel, I paid him for the sign and all that kind of stuff. Taj Boyd already talking about the Heisman. Clemson can't even protect a rock. Mark Rick turned my 5-star sign into a 3-star. Oh, yeah. Follow in the recruiting rankings, and yes, there is a touch for old number 2. Hey, here's Eric Stone Street. It's our Modern Family friend of the show. Hey. He's been holding up the winning sign at Jordan_Black3. Georgia suspended my other sign.
Do we need to bring up Kansas State?
Why did you do that to him? We're going to hear from Eric later on. He'll join us for Saturday selection.
Biggie.
The Cats lost the opener.
Yes.
Hashtag Game Day signs, the @College Game Day tweet. Countdown to kickoff minutes away on ESPN2. Ohio State fans, Arriva Derche. We'll see you week 2. We'll be giving updates throughout the game if you want to stick around here. Not a huge barn burner expected against Buffalo. What do you expect from him today?
Huge numbers. I think he's just trying to work on being a better passer today.
Well, Braxton Miller would certainly like to get what A.J. McCarron already has, and that's, of course, a couple of national championship rings. He has as many losses in his career as a starter, too, as he has national championship rings. But it's really another piece of memento, a little rubber bracelet that has even more of an impact on the Tide quarterback than those 2 championship rings. Tom Rinaldi has the story.
Alabama, they win the BCS championship behind A.J. McCarron.
Before he earned a ring, he wore a band given to him by a little girl with a message that echoes and a bond that endures.
We've both been through tough times. The doctors both told our families we were supposed to die. You know, to me, we're both miracles.
The big quarterback and the little girl met Christmas Eve 2011. A.J. McCarron and his family were delivering presents to children at a hospital in Mobile, Alabama. A hospital his family knew all too well as the place that saved McCarron's life when he was a little boy.
AJ was in a wave runner accident when he was 5 years old.
Crushed the left side of my face, almost the back part of my head. My eye was hanging out by a few tendons. I got to the hospital and they told my parents I was gonna die.
It still seems like a fog coming into a hospital and being told that my child more than likely was not going to leave the hospital, and if he did survive, that he would be a vegetable. It was just an amazing recovery. He's just a little miracle.
I act of God. He wanted me to have a second chance at life, and I kind of took it as, you know, he had me here for a reason.
Almost 20 years later, McCarron returned to the hospital as Alabama's starting quarterback, preparing for his first national championship game. On that Christmas Eve visit, he met a young fan named Starla.
She loves Alabama football. If she sees someone with an Alabama shirt on, she'll say, "Roll Tide."
She gets it from me. I'm cheering hard like I'm at the game at all times, so she's right with me with the Roll Tides.
Roll Tide.
Starla began to suffer from leg pain and fatigue. After a series of tests, the family received the diagnosis: acute myeloid leukemia.
Just hearing those words come out of his mouth as a mother, I didn't think that there was any more that I could hear.
Just before her chemotherapy treatments were set to start, it was Starla who tried to ease her parents' fears by saying the two words that would become the family's mission: just trust.
I was talking to my daughter the night that she was diagnosed, and I said, Starla, what's going on in your head right now? And she said, Dad, just trust, Dad. And ever since then, we just been trusting, because Starla told us to.
It means that you have to trust. I want them to trust that I would stay.
Starla, do you have some gifts to give them?
When McCarron met Starla that day, the family gave him a gift.
I was sitting there talking to her dad, and after a while, she just stuck out her little bracelet.
Team Starla.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna wear it in the game.
Yay!
And I told her I'd wear it in the national championship game and wouldn't take it off.
After Christmas, as McCarron continued to prepare for the title game, his mother kept him updated on Starla's condition. The low point came January 3rd, 2012.
She was already looking lethargic, and the next thing I know, she went into a seizure, and then from there I knew she wasn't breathing. She started turning blue, and I seen her, and she wasn't Starla. I mean, she was gone. I lost my daughter for a moment there. It's any parent's worst nightmare.
After suffering cardiac arrest, Starla was revived, but even then, given less than a week to live. Six days later, the Crimson Tide took on LSU for the national title, with McCarron under center. By Starla's bedside, the family watched from the hospital.
She was still on the ventilator. We turned the game on, and we yelled and we cheered.
McCarron gonna go deep.
And Starla's blood pressure went up every time we cheered, and we would stop, her blood pressure would even out.
AJ threw his hand up like that, and I was like, man, he has on the bracelet for real. It was very special.
I remember standing by Starla's bed and just whispering to her, "He's wearing your bracelet." And that meant a lot to me because he said he was gonna do it, and he actually did it.
Just days after the BCS and a shoulder surgery, McCarron came back to the hospital. One miracle checking up on another.
I remember saying, "Hey, pretty girl," and you could just see that her cheeks just started raising up on her head.
Oh man, she smiled. She smiled.
The relationship between the big quarterback and the little girl has only deepened. In March 2012, McCarron became Starla's godfather. Now, as he enters his final season and seeks his third ring, he still wears a rubber bracelet. For two friends, two fates, two words.
He kept his promise, and it's very special to know that he wants to be a part of her like that. And every single day knows that when he looks at his wrist, he has a part of Starla with him.
And we can report now that Starla has been cancer-free for almost 2 years. As of her last cardiologist appointment, her heart function has returned completely to normal. As for AJ, he has never taken off that bracelet. And as we told you earlier, McCarron's own medical condition, trivial by nature, nothing to worry about. Kirk said that AJ told him he had a minor operation on Thursday, removed that toenail. His toe's just fine, even though he showed up at the Georgia Dome there yesterday in a walking boot. Alabama, a pretty daunting opponent for anybody. They won by 65 combined points the last 3 times they've opened the season against a name brand opponent. They've just been punishing people. They get their guys ready to play. And for Frank Beamer in his 27th season at Virginia Tech, a guy who had to confront a woman at a recent booster club who said, "Coach, don't ever, ever put us through a season like last year." And the Hokies had to win 2 regular season games just to get bowl eligible. Here's a daunting number though going in. 1-27 all time against the top 5. They beat Miami back in 03 at home. So away from Blacksburg, 0-23 all time against the top 5. Alabama, in the meantime, a lot of numbers on the other side. They're big favorites for a reason, but this is still a big, big game for both sides.
It's not very often that you're playing the #1 team in the country. I think most of these kids came to Virginia Tech to play in games like this.
We're all thinking about what it'd be like to slay the giant and, you know, come out on top.
Kind of need to start off strong and finish even stronger. We got to create opportunities to, you know, put them in bad situations to create turnovers and try to knock the ball out when they do have it.
Whatever position you look at, you're looking at an NFL player, and they're one of the only teams in the country like that. You just got to be very consistent against them. They make plays when they present themselves because they're not going to give you too many.
It's going to be a big game for us in deciding whether we have a chance to repeat or contend for the national championship. But at the end of the day, for being a player, it's all about maintaining our standard and holding everybody accountable to what they do.
Well, Logan Thomas for the Virginia Tech offense. We talked about the injury problems, how thin they are at running back. The tight end is lost. But he believes he's improved a lot. And David, against this Alabama defense that has some new faces, that has plenty of talent, we're going to see if Thomas has improved a lot in the offseason very quickly. What about this Tide defense and replacing some core leaders and guys who were important to that championship run a year ago?
He better be improved because it's a tremendous challenge. And this might be Nick Saban's best linebacker group he's had since he's been in Alabama. Think about that. That's pretty scary. And the headliner for me is C.J. Mosley. This guy has range. This is Johnny Manziel. You saw everybody try to catch him a year ago. 4th down, 10 yards to go. Look how far he goes across the football field to stop Johnny Manziel on a 4th down. Pass coverage, he's also exceptional. Reading the quarterback's eyes, getting back in his zone. He sees the quarterback about to throw, breaks on the football, makes the interception, takes it to the house. So you see him run things down. You see him in pass coverage making big plays. But he's also a great blitzer. He's a guy that flies up the field, the 3-4 defense that likes to attack. And you see him right here. He attacks Georgia. They throw a screen right behind it. Look at the recognition out of C.J. Mosley. He sees what's going to happen. If he does it, this could go for a long game. Does a great job tackling Todd Gurley. Logan Thomas is breaking in new skill possession. He's breaking in a relatively new offensive line. He has a freshman left tackle. There's a lot of things going against Logan Thomas and Virginia Tech. He better have improved this offseason, and that chemistry better be working early because they're going to get a tremendous challenge today.
You know, David, Scott Loeffler is the new offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. Has his hands full, not only breaking in a new group of receivers, only really one running back. You know, he's a redshirt freshman. It's going to be tough going up against Alabama's defense. I personally think the only way Virginia Tech's able to really hang around in this game is the other side, Bud Foster and his defense. Fortunately, they have a lot of returning players, 9 returning starters, and it's going to start up front. They've got to be able to beat some blocks and get upfield, get penetration. The only time we see people have some success, rarely against the Alabama style of offense, is to be able to just out-muscle them up front. You don't see it very often. LSU's had some success in the past. And then if you do get A.J. McCarron into some obvious passing downs, that's when you're going to have to count on Jimmy Gale beating these tackles around the edge to get pressure on McCarron to try to see if you can create some turnovers. So I don't think this game's going to be very close. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Frank Beamer and Bud Foster. And for them to hang around, Des, it's going to have to be defense, special teams, catch a few breaks, look up in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
We're in this, fellas. We can do this. Let's shock the world. But I just don't see it. I don't think they have enough offensive firepower.
I agree with you. I don't see it either. I think that the story of the day has to be the defense. They're going to have to try to keep them in the game and keep them in the game early. Now, when Scott Loeffler came to Blacksburg to work with Logan Thomas, he said, I wish I could work with this kid my whole career. What he wanted to do with Logan is try to infuse some leadership into Logan. Not that Logan couldn't be a good leader, but Logan had a problem getting to the faces of his guys when they didn't make plays. If a receiver dropped the ball, Logan would just let it ride. He wouldn't say anything. Loeffler said it was okay. Get into the receivers' faces, get into the tight ends' faces, let them know it's not okay to drop passes. So now he's become more of a leader. But, Coach, he has 3 of his 4 offensive tackles or freshmen. He doesn't have a good running back behind him, and that's what Loeffler wanted to do, really establish the run. So it's going to be a long day for Logan Thomas.
But from a coach's standpoint, Virginia Tech is in a win-win situation against Alabama because their preseason and off-season workouts were intense and meaningful. And no matter if they win or lose this game, they're going to be a better football team for playing this game than not. That's it.
Unless they get embarrassed.
They won't.
I know. I'm just saying. That's
win-win unless the Tide pull your pants down on Georgia Dome.
They'll be better because they played against the best. They know what it's like to play against the best.
I think it's great that they took on the challenge of playing Alabama. Not always easy to find an opponent for them. The last time, by the way, the Hokies were unranked in the preseason as they are now. They did win the ACC. Yes, the Clemson fans, you guys still awake? Is Virginia Tech going to win the ACC? Hokies win the ACC. They're just happy to be on camera, happy to be upright. I don't think there are many people here that think Virginia Tech's going to win the ACC. I don't think many people on the desk think that either.
No.
Well, we're counting down to kickoff directly after College Game Day. Have you heard of this guy? Oh, headphones are off, helmet is on, jersey's on. Got to sit out the first half. And meanwhile, we're going to talk about the Broncos and the Huskies in beautiful new Husky Stadium in Seattle. That's an interesting game today as well. ABC, 8 o'clock kickoff of this anticipated collision of 2 teams ranked preseason in the top 10 who both believe they're worthy of BCS consideration. Major step in the right direction. The winner of this game tonight. And then Jordy's got to head home and play South Carolina. Boo. Meanwhile, look at this beautiful new Husky Stadium. $260 million or so. They stepped back after a year away. You realize, by the way, while Washington was playing in the Seahawks ballpark, they played good defense. They led the Pac-12. Fewest points allowed in home games. They only got 15 points a game. They were 5-1. They beat Stanford. Now they go back to their own place. Kirk, you called this bowl game in Vegas between Boise State and Washington. Good one.
Hey, it was a great game. It was one of those games that went back and forth, and really it depended on who was going to avoid the mistakes. Boise State's credit, they found a way to get that win.
Meanwhile, Boise State hoping their offense is going to be much improved this season with Joe Southwick. You know, last year, they scored 182 fewer points than the year before. Kellen Moore was a hard act to follow. And the team, by the way, still won 11 games with 2 very close losses. Hello. Now they go to Seattle to open the season as a mild underdog, but it would surprise no one if Peterson's team got off on the good foot. Meanwhile, Washington, their fans are almost demanding a good start to the season off of yet another 7-6, 7-6, 7-6. That's a successful tennis score. Winning 3 tiebreaks. That's not going to get it done in the one-loss department of Washington anymore this year. And Keith Price, who had 38 sacks last year, that was a total for the Husky quarterbacks. He threw the ball away 37 times because the protection wasn't there. Can they step up and step forward and improve on defense? Here's Steve Sarkisian getting his team ready for the Broncos.
Oh, hold on a minute. I'll move you to tight end. You remember the trade we made for Hudson, for Evan Hudson? Player to be named later? Yeah. We'll take JoJo. Watch him.
The natural curiosity is the change from being a traditional tempo team to more of an up-tempo offense. Our plays haven't changed per se, but the tempo in which we do that has changed.
God dang it, Dwayne! I need it again! You got it. Hey, you got to relate to number 3, dude. I don't care how far you kick it, man.
And we struggled at times to be consistent. We went out last year and beat 2 top 10 ranked teams in America and then stubbed our toe in some other games that we felt like we should have won.
That's Keith Price! Keith Price! Hey, versus Fire Zone 3D. Fire Zone 3D, bullseye's not bad, right?
I think this team is the best one on paper that we've had in my 5 years of being here, but we got to go play the game.
Well, they're going to play the game in an electric atmosphere. Tremendous anticipation to be back in our home ballpark. But Austin Safarian-Jenkins, the excellent playmaking tight end that you saw featured there, suspended and out for the game. Casey Williams, though, the receiver, is there. What do you make of this?
Well, although Washington lost that game to Boise, they have 17 starters back, and as Chris mentioned, the offensive line was brutal last year. They gave up 38 sacks. Keith Price is a good quarterback. I like Washington by a field goal in this game.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I like Boise, and this is why I like their quarterback, Joe Southwood. Now, he struggled earlier in the season last year, but he finished the final 4 games with 9 touchdown passes and no interceptions. He said it was just a matter of him getting into a rhythm and getting comfortable with the offensive system. And this spring and fall, his Coach Peterson, said that he's praised him for his progress and his leadership skills. So I think that Southwick is going to be the difference tonight. I like Boise State.
I'm a fan of Southwick. He's a dual threat guy, can make some plays. You imagine trying to replace Kellen Moore last year. I think he settled in late, had a great bowl game against Washington. Chris talked about Keith Price. He was not only sacked a few times last year, 63 times in the last 2 years. I think he has happy feet. Bishop Sankey is the best back you've never heard of. Watch him today. He's got great vision and patience in running the football. As the year went on last year, he became better and better for Sark, taking some of the pressure off of Keith Price. Like all good backs, low center of gravity, so he's got nice balance. He runs through the arm tackles. And the big thing that might surprise you when you watch him, he'll catch the ball in the backfield, and he's got a burst. He can really accelerate and get downfield. And this is something that you know Boise State's going to have to be concerned with. You can see that right there. Low center of gravity, good, outstanding acceleration. And against Boise State, I think one thing Washington tried to learn was you get 2 new corners stepping in for Boise State. Maybe you see a little bit more of a conservative approach. And if they do, you've got to be able to rely on Sankey to have a huge game to take, again, the pressure off of Keith Price. I think Keith Price just became emotionally erratic, wondering where the pressure might come from. That's why he's throwing the ball away all the time, because he's worried about getting hit.
They want to do better. They know there's urgency around Sarkisian's situation. They know they're back in a new stadium. They know all the atmosphere, but it's a young team. I wonder if that's going to be a factor tonight. It's a lot for the Huskies to handle, and Boise State's proven. Stage right, camera left. I'm with the Broncos. Like the Broncos.
There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like there.
Spoiling the party, and you guys put purple over here.
That's right. Purple. Go purple.
What is our race for each? What is
Fair, what do you got, kid?
Interesting game.
Look at there. Look at. On what game? Washington.
Boise State. Pay attention to us. Broncos.
I get a feeling Boise State. I actually like Boise State in the game. I think Washington might be a little overvalued in this game.
That's a smart man right there. That's a smart man.
It's a 4-hour show. You need to be locked into the show.
I actually thought you were asking about any other game. I didn't hear
Lock her in. Lock her in for 4.
I like him. He's like the Supreme Court. There's a tie. He broke the tie. We got 3 boys, 2 options.
He's working on the ponies.
Well, by the way, there's an update. There's an update from the tracks today.
Mr. Corso, there actually is a reason why I was looking at the ponies. I know you were really looking forward to the debut of Johnny Football this afternoon in Saratoga. The son of Colonel John, the 2-year-old, the Colonel John connections, scratched. A lot of rain at Saratoga last night. So race off the turf. Johnny Football scratched from the 2nd race at Saratoga.
I hope that better not be an home. That better not be an home. I don't like that.
Trust me, after all this, he will not be scratched in college today. Will he be scratched by the defense? They better hope keep away from the defense. Don't scratch Johnny Football. The Tide coming to town.
Boy, Bear, an all-time great.
Well, hope the crowd's ready. Hope you're ready. Only about a half hour to go. Kick off from College Station. We got a little jam left.
It's still Saturday.
The Bear. It is.
This crowd's been here, some of them since last night. Hanging with us in the heat for this 4-hour edition of College Game Day. The band has still got some. Pace yourselves. It's a long day.
Yeah. Or hot. Imagine wearing those unis.
Oh, yeah. Man. What's terrific about this, this is not one of those made-for-TV matchups. There's nothing wrong with that. It allows you to see good teams playing and take the risk for money. These teams scheduled a home-and-home series anyway. First time in 10 years. And the Cats got to go up to, down to Athens, I should say, take on Georgia, open the season next year. I'll tell you what, that bus is looking pretty good. The air conditioner's fired up. Like in there.
Crank that AC right there.
We'll be watching games all day. Our celebrity guest picker waiting in the air conditioner to find out. A couple of tidbits. We talked about lots of different angles, but Georgia is not going to have their regular kicker. Marshall Morgan is suspended for this game. He had a boating under the influence citation. He had a couple of beers, pulled a front run on an inner tube, and was suspended for a game, not a half a game. He got a game for that. And so Adam Erickson be handling the place kicking duties in his absence for Georgia. Something to remember just in case the game is close. Somebody's going to take a painful loss. One of the national theories is this game means a lot more to Clemson than it does to Georgia, because Georgia has an even more important division opponent. Those guys from Columbia, the Gamecocks.
Yeah, they're listening.
Come up
now they're in there.
Clemson, there you go. On the other hand, seeking respect for their team and their conference, maybe a little bit more in the line. Are you buying that?
You know, for us, tempo is one of our keys. I feel like we got some of the best skilled guys in the country.
I think Taj Boyd and I take a lot of pride in going fast and being quick and getting the balls in our athletes' hands.
Teams can go as fast as they want, but if they can't execute, it's really not doing you any good. I think the fact that they can execute while they're going fast is what makes it tough.
When you have a guy like Taj Boyd and a guy like Aaron Murray, you have very, very little room for error.
If we win the SEC championship a year ago, there might be a good shot that Murray decided he's done about all he can do. I think Aaron Murray is back with us because we didn't win the game.
We put in all the work. We know our game plans. We know what, their schemes, and now we just got to go out there and execute and have fun.
David, both quarterbacks have taken the knocks. They've grown up. We've heard earlier how Taj Boyd has improved, how he's a little bit quicker. What are the challenges for him tonight against this Georgia defense?
Well, I tell you what, when you watch Taj Boyd, he's an effortless thrower of the football. He takes shots down the field. He's great. There's one area of his game that if I'm Georgia and I'm watching his tape from a year ago, that I would attack him. And that's up the middle. It's A-gap pressure. Get in his face right away and make him get rid of the football fast or make him try to get outside the pocket. That's when you see. Another area, too, he's a great athlete, but when he sees pressure and you start to come to him, he needs to do a better job. Step up in the pocket. Look at that. You have an opportunity to step up and throw. Taj Boyd is off the chains good. He's got weapons. They play fast. They can attack Georgia's defense. If I was attacking him and I had a critique, I would make sure I get A-gap pressure and make him run outside the pocket where he doesn't have the greatest pocket presence in the world. But listen, he's still a baller.
David, you took hours and hours and hours to come up with a couple bad plays. It took me about 3 minutes to be able to find a lot of good stuff with Taj Boyd. I want to talk about 3 things that I think stand out to me that's going to have to be on display for Taj Boyd, and that's the toughness. Last time we saw him, he played against LSU. Yes, that LSU defense, 29 carries. He was sacked 5 times. 50 pass attempts. He just kept coming back. The awareness and understanding. Watch this. Here's a run to the left. They're running his own play. The linemen are running his own play. The back's running his own play. The awareness to see that his receiver here, Nuke Hopkins, has a cushion of about 10 yards. He just fires the ball out there. The line runs a run play. Get it out to Hopkins with a soft corner. Touchdown for Clemson. They'll look to do that tonight against a young secondary. And then the accuracy. This is last year in that bowl game. 4th and 16, games on the line. Look how tight this window is. You can't even see the wide receiver. He puts it on the money to keep that drive alive and to give them a chance to win. Tonight's game is going to be about Todd Grantham, the defensive coordinator from Georgia. He's got 6 true freshmen in the 2 deep in the back end. How well can he prepare a young secondary against a veteran quarterback on the road with tempo and the deception of the pre-snap movement? It's going to be interesting to see how Georgia holds on and how they perform against this quarterback.
To win this game, Georgia must find a way to outscore the Tigers because they're going to score, no question about it. But Georgia has the weapons just to do that. You can watch them. They'll run the ball, be playing behind an offensive line that average 6'4", 310 with a running back, Todd Gurley, who averages over 6 yards per carry. They'll throw the ball to the tight end, Arthur Lynch, 6'5", 238, a real clutch receiver. And then Murray will play action passes and throw the ball long because Clemson gave up a lot of long touchdown passes last year. Now tonight, Clemson is going to score 36. So Georgia better find a way to score 37.
Exactly.
36.
Wow.
That's 36. They're going to score 36. Georgia better find 37.
That's a hard number to hit. That's a real good number.
So what?
Offense, offense, offense. That's all I keep hearing about. Taj Boyd, Aaron Murray. Well, I'm going to tell you, look, I called Dabo Swinney early in the week. He said, Desmond, no one's talking about our defense. They're full of no names. So listen, using the Home Depot coach's playbook, I'm going to introduce you to some significant defensive players on Clemson's side of the ball. We're going to start off with the defensive most valuable player from a year ago, Grady Jarrett, the nose guard. See how he engages with the guard, but he's still looking downfield. He's able to come right down the line and make a tackle. That guy is going to be significant stopping the run tonight. And his linebacker, Stephon Anthony, he's like a heat-seeking missile. Once he sees run, he's coming full speed. I can't wait to see him running the Todd Gurley of Georgia and Vic Beasley. Now, he's not going to jump off sides. I'm just showing you the move he's doing. He's going to slap the tackle's hand down, and he's going to dip the shoulder to get around him. He's going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on Aaron Murray. Watch out for Clemson's defense. They're going to have to be the difference maker in tonight's game if Clemson's going to win the game.
Watch out for Clemson's defense.
Watch out for Clemson's defense.
It's a good point, and they're in their second year in the Brent Venables system, which they can play faster, understand the scheme, play a lot faster.
They had a lot of freshmen and sophomores. Yep. Dabo said this group is now filled with sophomores and juniors, and they have a lot of depth.
Well, older fans remember it. The younger fans perhaps have been told around here, but in 3 meetings against Clemson, the great Herschel Walker never scored a touchdown against the Tigers. So Gurley and Marshall tonight in one game, how many touchdown runs those guys combined for, do you think? They're going to do what Herschel did not do? They will get a running touchdown?
Yes, they will. Yeah, okay. Gurley will run. He will have a rushing touchdown for sure.
Marshall
too. Yeah. So it's going to be so hot. He's going to have to spell Gurley.
Yeah. Is 36 exactly 36? Is that 3 touchdowns and 5 field goals? Is it 5 touchdowns to go for 2?
6 touchdowns and 6 missed extra points.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. All right. Well, the entire world waiting to see how this one's going to shake down because it is SEC, ACC. We saw what happened on Thursday night. The old Tar Heels, rain delay and all, they got humbled in Columbia. They got shut down by not so much Clowney, but that Gamecock defense. You got Virginia Tech against Bama. Not giving the ACC a great chance. So what about this one here, Mr. Howard? Is this the place where the ACC gets a much-needed respect W against the SEC? First crack for you.
Well, CF, I think that Clemson in the Chick-fil-A Bowl against LSU, they really showed something I hadn't seen in a long time from them. We always knew they had talent, but they played with an attitude, especially late in the game. They fought, they scratched, they clawed. I love the attitude they played with. Hopefully that has carried over through the offseason into this season right now. I have the Clemson Tigers beating Georgia tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, way to go.
Impressed with the way they played LSU in the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
Good
Built some confidence.
Very, very confident. Played with an attitude.
All right, so the first pick to Clemson. Let's go to old number 47 in the red and black.
Let's see if we can keep the happiness behind us going. I really think that this is a coin flip game. I think both offenses are so spectacular. But the difference for me is Georgia has number 3, the best running back in the country in Todd Gurley. I think he is the difference. I think he can keep Clemson's offense off the field a little bit. But he's a bad man. You're going to see plenty of him, and I think he's the reason Georgia wins the game.
Yeah, I think they kind of expected that, David. There's no objects flying in the demo field.
He's picked against Georgia.
Yes, he has.
So he's saying what he thinks.
I know Georgia fans have been mad at him before.
Yeah, he says what he thinks.
Pick with the head, not the heart from Pollock. But many more predictions, including the prediction they're really waiting for. It's going to be canines. You got a good record picking canines. Felines, not so much. Before we get there, though, kickoff in College Station. Wright Thompson weighs in on Johnny Manziel. We've heard lots of opinions and takes. Mr. Thompson will give his straight ahead.
to just actually play a game? Can we talk about that? What's your take?
I'm a 20-year-old kid.
What really happened?
Made my mistakes.
Did he sign autographs for money? Can the NCAA prove it? Is he a remarkable moron or just unlucky? Is he lying? Here's a more meta question. Do we care? Not should we care or do we need to pretend to care?
Takes off running.
But really, do we care? Do you care? Be honest. Do you? What's his major offense? That he's not Tim Tebow? How many Tebows did you know in college? How many Manziels? Which one were you? Who wouldn't want to hang out with rap stars or on country music tour buses? What's the point of being a famous quarterback if you don't occasionally act like an idiot? Isn't there a case to be made that not taking full advantage of this fleeting magic window would be some sort of crime against nature? Will he win another Heisman Trophy? Will he sell insurance in Tyler, Texas, growing fat on country club food and faded glory drinks? Will a local television anchor pretend to be shocked while reading from an arrest report? What will become of Johnny Football? What will happen to the legend and to the young man it protects and obscures? What will we say about Johnny Manziel?
What haven't we said about Johnny Manziel already?
Let's play ball now.
Yeah. You can tell he's a different guy when he steps between the lines. All the issues off the field, the constant stimulation he needs. When he gets in the field, it's very simple. Tom Luganville now with Coach Kevin Sumlin. What will he say?
Say nothing. Well, Coach Sumlin, who's going to start at quarterback in the first half?
Well, you know, all these guys are going to play. You know, I know that there's been a little bit of discussion. I had a meeting with Matt and with Kenny yesterday, and we'll just see who runs out there first. They know who's going to play. I know who's going to play, but our team's confident in both those guys.
With both of those guys having two contrasting styles, what can we expect to see differently out of the offense in the first two quarters?
You know, we try to play to everybody's strengths. I think Matt's been around a little bit longer. He understands the tempo. He understands the complete offense a little bit more than Kenny. Kenny's more athletic. Just got here, been practicing about 4 weeks. So, you know, both those guys have capabilities to run our offense. You know, it's our job as coaches to give them a plan that they can execute.
Finally, just how happy are you to just start playing football?
Well, you know, we've been through a little bit the last couple of weeks, and you know, inside this deal, it's been fun. You know, the practice regiment. We started school Monday. I can tell you, just in that quick team meeting that we just had, the energy level was very, very, very high. And it's not about me being excited to play. It's about these guys, and I think they can't wait to get on this field today.
Good stuff, Coach. Good luck.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's about his team, but he is probably the most excited coach in America to get to football. There is number 2, one of the 3 quarterbacks that you're going to see on the field.
A lot of people wonder, how does he mix with his teammates? That's another thing that would surprise you. With all the individual attention he's received, his teammates cheer for him. They're in his corner. They want him to be there. Reading between the lines with what Kevin just said, they're going to probably start Jokel, show him respect for the fact he's been around, and then Kenny Hill will come in and get a chance. It's more about trust, I think, if they end up starting Jokel.
Yeah, of course, Matt is the younger brother of Luke Jokel, the guy who protected the blind side of Manziel. And Kenny Hill comes from, as we heard earlier, a high school system pretty similar to what the Aggies run. He's explosive. He's elusive. What are these guys going to think, though? You got Hill, you got Jokel, who's sort of waited around. He's a junior, big pocket passer. You got a half, maybe in Jokel's case less, to show what you can do before the Johnny show starts.
You're a coach. I mean, I don't think they're worried about, hey, I'm really going to shine and become the guy. The guy is going to play.
But I like to see something like Kevin Sumlin.
Yeah.
He has handled this situation beautifully.
How so?
Outside a Manziel situation, handle it with poise and dignity. That guy deserves a lot of credit.
I agree with you. He doesn't get enough credit for the way he's handled this and kept his team together.
That's right.
He's done a great job of buying into the Bull Durham quotes, which I think you have to do.
That's true. Very true.
We're just getting, God willing, we're going to go out there and give our best.
Made a smart decision, I think. Either he made a decision or was made for him, but the coaching staff has been sort of kept away from all this.
Yes. Right.
They haven't had to ask the tough questions of the quarterback. They haven't had to field a lot of the tougher questions because other facets in the university up the chain have handled it. So that's been a relief for somebody who can honestly say, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know nothing.
Don't ask me.
I know nothing.
All right, meantime, late-breaking story from College Station. We've got about 15 minutes to go till kickoff, and there are word of suspensions, 4 of them not involving Johnny Manziel, not involving half either. Devontae Harris, suspended.
Defensive back. Yep. Good player.
Stephen Jenkins.
That's one of their experienced linebackers.
Yeah, who's had some problems last year.
Yeah.
Edward Pope.
Wow. Pope, another good player.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and Gavin Stansbury. So no reason given. These are 2-game suspensions. 2 games.
2 games. Isn't
Sam Houston State?
Isn't that interesting? 2 games, and then they get to play the Alabama game.
Set him out for Sam Houston.
I'll show you.
You just said how beautifully Kevin Sumlin handled the situation.
He handled Manziel's situation beautifully.
Violation of the department policies. That's what we're being told. The late-breaking word. So 4 guys suspended for a couple of games.
Get the headgear going.
Johnny Manziel suspended for a couple quarters. And we got
away we go.
The signature part of the show. Mr. Corso, what began with Brutus Buckeye all those years ago will continue here. And the Purple Cat, Eric Stonestreet, in mourning perhaps for the Wildcats loss to North Dakota State. What? In the opener, he will join us and offer his expertise straight ahead. He'll wear the colors in front.
College Game Day is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And in part by Cooper Tires. Life's a road trip. Come on, let's go. And Applebee's. Applebee's 2 for $20 menu just got even better with the new Honey Pepper Grill.
Chip off the old rock. Tigers will touch it, run down that field, and the anticipated collision will get underway. Happy to welcome Modern Family's Eric Stonestreet, big sports fan, not just college football. Purple Cats logo here, my friend.
Now, yeah, I had to wear it.
You're still proud. That's a true fan.
Absolutely.
That's a fan.
We played a tough game last night, and that's the great thing about football is any team can beat any team, and hats off to North Dakota State.
North Dakota State's the 2-time FCS champions, but you guys were closing in on the BCS title game a year ago before the late upset. Could be a different season here. Brock Jensen, 18-play, 80-yard drive with a 1-yard touchdown run. Oh, my goodness, in Manhattan.
Week 1 already.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know what? One of Bill Snyder's 16 points to success is improve, and we got some improvement to do, and there's no doubt that they'll do that, and they'll be back. I have faith in my Wildcats.
The 16-point plan for improvement comes out. That's good coaching. We know why you're here coaching these contestants.
That's right.
Unlike Ty, who would bail on the Ducks if they lost, right?
No, Ty would never bail on them, but we can't talk about the Ducks.
Let's move on to bigger and better games today. Saturday selections brought to you by Chevrolet. To play virtual Saturday selections, just go online, ESPN.com, search Chevrolet. We're counting down to the headgear pick. Mr. Corso's won 4 straight season-opening headgear picks. The last time you were wrong, pick Clemson over Alabama. But we'll start with BYU and Virginia. David Watford, a new quarterback for the Cavaliers at home against the Cougs. ESPNU at 3:30, Eric.
You know, I got my notes here, first of all. BYU's had its independence for 3 years. They traveled to Virginia. Thomas Jefferson wrote the draft of the Declaration of Independence, Virginia.
Wow. Man, that's a very good pick. And listen, they got 3 former head coaches on their staff. That's the difference. Virginia in an upset.
You know, we keep track of your picks, right?
No, please don't say it now.
BYU's defense is the story of this game. I think they'll play outstanding, and I like them on the road.
Really interesting game. Sonny Dykes in the Bear Raid offense, Eric, out west against Northwestern, which comes out west as a favorite, expecting a big year. How do you see it?
It's a team that wears purple, and it's a Wildcat. I'll never not pick them, Northwestern.
Oh, man, great pick. Venrick Mark is the star of this ball game. Northwestern by a field goal.
No, I was just going to say, you're so smart, Lee.
I think going on the road for Big Ten teams out west is always scary. I think Kane Coulter, along with Venrick Mark, will be the difference. Plus, Cal, even though they have that up-tempo, true freshman quarterback, I think that'll catch up to him.
Speaking of true freshman quarterback, Christian Hackenberg expected to start for Penn State. The Lions, as they take on Syracuse at MetLife, they also have a quarterback named Tyler Ferguson. It's not Jesse Tyler Ferguson.
I'd love to see that.
You know, he's not the quarterback. Who wins this?
You know, I like the color orange, so I'm going the Orangeman.
All right. Not so fast, my friend.
Ooh, here it starts,
Penn State gets win by a touchdown and a field goal.
I think this is a closer game than people may anticipate. Drew Allen comes over from Oklahoma as a quarterback for Syracuse. I just think that Penn State and Bill O'Brien, he'll have them ready to go. I like him even with the young quarterback.
Well, the Huskies, another team with purple. A lot of anticipation in the new stadium. But here comes Boise State, which beat him in the bowl game in the last season.
Newly renovated stadium. Boise State won't overcome that atmosphere. Washington.
Great pick.
Thanks,
Washington, because of the new stadium by a field goal.
Triple not so fast, my friend, for Chris Fowler, not for me. I'm with you guys. I like Washington at home for the same reason. And Bishop Sankey will be the star in this game.
I don't believe that colors of jerseys and stadiums win football games.
Emotion
State defense. I know it does. All right. LSU and TCU. We got another team in purple. Can TCU get it done to a young team against the big bad SEC? The game's in Arlington.
TCU.
Oh, man.
I'm picking TCU, Corso. Bring it on.
Got a lot of
Not so fast, my friend. You know why? A defensive struggle. Very close. LSU by a field goal.
This is going to be one of the better games, but I'm going LSU. Zach Mettenberg, I think, shows that this is a new modern era of LSU offense. I think he makes some big plays against TCU.
All right, another Big 12 versus SEC game. Can Oklahoma State's up-tempo offense wear out the Bulldogs?
I think it's their defense that takes the running game off the table, and I'm going Oklahoma State. Big 12, baby.
Good pick because of the Big 12, right? Closer than the experts think. Closer than the experts think.
I think this is a shootout. I think Oklahoma State's going to score, but I think Mississippi State can also score with Tyler Russell. They have an improved offensive line. Perkins in that backfield. I think it's a shootout, but I'm with Oklahoma State finding a way to win it at the end.
If the Pokes don't win, that's a huge hit for your Big 12. That's the team that's supposed to win the league. And Mississippi State neutral field.
Yeah, I love it.
Got to win that one. Got to win that one.
Washington State against Auburn. You got Mike Leach, Gus Malzahn, high IQ play calling. Who wins that one?
Pirates get sunk. Wazoo, baby.
Oh, man. Auburn. It's a long way from Auburn, Alabama to Pullman, Washington.
Wait, I'm picking Auburn. I accidentally messed up on my notes.
Auburn.
Auburn's my pick.
Okay. Auburn. Good pick. By 2 touchdowns.
Auburn.
I even have it highlighted.
Washington State's going to move the football. Connor Halliday is their quarterback. Second year with Mike Leach. They're going to throw the ball and have success, but the heat and humidity in the second half, and we'll see this Nick Marshall for the first time for Gus Malzahn. I like Auburn, but it's going to be a battle.
We almost had a Ryan Lochte moment out here. What is it about people who pick Auburn? But you like Auburn. We'll establish that. Yeah. Now, I think most people are picking Alabama over Virginia Tech. How close or how big is the game going to be?
It's not going to be close, and our second AD on Modern Family is a Roll Tide gal. Helena, what's up? She loves Kirk Herbstreit. I'm going Bama, baby. Roll Tide.
Bama's going to win this game, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a close defensive game. Closer than the experts think, Alabama.
Bud Foster's defense will play, and they'll play inspired, especially nobody giving them a chance. He'll have a way of motivating them, but I think at the end, T.J. Yeldon, A.J. McCarron, best group of receivers that A.J.'s ever had, and I just don't think Virginia Tech has the offense to compete in this game. I like Bama big.
And out of the game, these folks have waited a long time for. Can Mark Richt continue the trend as the head coach of Georgia? He's 15-1 against the ACC, 15 out of 16, including 7-0 against the visitor. Now, the record against top 10 teams isn't quite so good. Which experienced senior quarterback gets it done? Which defense gets just enough breaks of serve to win what we expect is going to be a shootout in the heat? Kirk, you're calling the game. You can't make a pick, but give us a key.
I think the key is which of these secondaries can match up and deal with the experience and the explosive big play ability of the two quarterbacks. There's a lot of speed and a lot of ability. Todd Gurley, the balance of Georgia, and then you have Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins, Martavius Bryant against these two secondaries. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this football game.
Eric?
All right. Clemson's lost a tremendous amount on defense that you almost think you got to take Murray in Georgia, but then you think Taj Boyd. Atmosphere. I'm going Clemson, baby! I was at the Tiger Town Tavern last night and I drank the juice and it tasted good! Clemson!
Clemson, Tigers, all right. Hey, last season, listen, last season was the year of the animal. I picked a dog mascot twice and got beat twice. Yes, sir. I went down to Texas A&M, lost. Went to Tennessee, lost.
Yep.
Last time we were at Georgia, I called that ugly.
You sure
yes,
did.
sir.
That was disrespectful.
But I'm done with dogs. I'm done with dogs. Let me hear it. Let me hear it up here. Yeah, I'm done with dogs. All right. Give me that helmet.
Maybe not.
Oh, he's not done with dogs.
Oh, hey, hey.
Oh, boo.
Georgia, the dogs win it.
Those are August 7's grandkids here. There you go. Look at these little guys. And a girl. One of each.
They look extremely happy to be here.
Yes. Georgia, the dogs.
Big guy, we thank you for joining us. Laying down. He thinks the underdog's going to be howling. Corso's going with the dogs tonight in prime time on ABC. Enjoy your opening Saturday. Now the long-awaited kickoff in Kyle Field. Aggies and Rice, Dave Pash and Brian Greasy. He's asleep.